Chapter 126. Tap tap. Finally, the sound of footsteps could be heard. Qin Feiyong turned to look at the door. Luo Xiong, elder he, and a dark-skinned old man walked into the hall. The dark-skinned old man was wearing a black robe. He had black hair, black breath and black skin. He looked like a piece of charcoal. Qin Feiyong looked at them one by one and found that Luo Xiong's expression was not good. The three of them sat on the chairs next to him. Luo Xiong said, "Zhang Haoyan, let me introduce you to this old man with skin problems. His name is Jia He, and he is also the Danwang Hall's law-enforcing elder." Fake black? He's obviously real black. I just don't know if his heart is black or not. Qin Feiyong secretly sneered and cupped his hands. "Greetings, Elder Jia." Jia He responded indifferently. There was no smile on his old face, and he looked incomparably cold. "Elder," he said, "Zhang Haoyan, do you know why we called you here?" Qin Feiyong shook his head. "Elder," he said, "I'll be frank. We want the Nether Devil Flame." As expected. Qin Feiyong narrowed his eyes. What was to come had finally come. Luo Xiong frowned and smiled. "Haoyan, the Nether Devil Flame has already recognized Swan as its master. You can't control it. It will be troublesome if you keep it by your side. Why don't you give it to them?" "That's right. You know that Lin Han is already coveting the Nether Devil Flame. Although he didn't succeed this time, there will definitely be a next time. It's not safe for you to keep it." "Elder," he said. Qin Feiyong frowned. "Elder," he continued, "I know that you don't want to, but this is the Grand Hall Master's decision. As a disciple of the Danwang Hall, you should obey unconditionally. Of course, we won't mistreat you. From now on, you can read all the recipes in the Danwang Hall. We will also arrange the best alchemy room for you. Furthermore, you will be promoted to a core disciple." Elder, he offered one enticing condition after another. If it were anyone else, they would definitely agree without hesitation. But in Qin Feiyong's eyes, it was useless. He glanced at the three of them and said indifferently, "With this disciple's talent in alchemy, it doesn't seem difficult to become a core disciple, obtain a good alchemy room, and look up those pill recipes." Elder, he raised his eyebrows and was about to fly into a rage. Luo Xiong said, "Old he, don't be in a hurry to get angry. Although Zhang Haoyan's words are a little arrogant, he does have the qualifications to do so." Jia He said expressionlessly, "No matter how talented you are or how high your spiritual power is, without the Danwang Hall's nurturing, it will be difficult for you to achieve anything in the future." Qin Feiyong smiled. This was a blatant threat. If he didn't hand over the Nether Devil Flame today, the Danwang Hall would give up on him. Since it was already like this, he had nothing to worry about. "I'll be honest. The Nether Devil Flame is something that I risked my life to obtain. Although I can't get it to recognize me as its master now, it's only a matter of time. So, it's impossible for me to hand it over." Qin Feiyong looked coldly at the three of them, his attitude unyielding. Jia He's old eyes flashed with a cold light. He said darkly, "Do you know the consequences of doing this? Don't threaten me. It's just leaving the Danwang Hall. Do you think that I can't live if I leave the Danwang Hall?" Qin Feiyong met Jia He's gaze without fear. "Don't regret it." Jia He said word by word. His tone was bone-chilling. "Regret?" Qin Feiyong sneered and said indifferently, "Then let's wait and see. We'll see who's the one who regrets it in the end." "Good, very good. Congratulations, you've completely infuriated this elder." Jia He stood up abruptly. His aura surged as he pounced on Qin Feiyong. "Congratulations to all of you for completely infuriating me. I don't want to stay in this rubbish place anymore." Qin Feiyong sneered as he turned around and walked outside. He originally thought that the people of the Danwang Hall would be as kind and reasonable as Luo Xiong, Feng Cheng, and Elder Emo from the Pill Hall, but obviously he was thinking too much. He didn't want to stay in a place like this, no matter how many benefits it gave him. "My Danwang Hall is not a place where you can come and go as you please." Jia He was furious. How dare he call the Danwang Hall a rubbish place? He really didn't know his place. He took a step forward and instantly landed behind Qin Feiyong. His old hand reached out and grabbed Qin Feiyong's arm. "Old man Jia, stop." Luo Xiong's expression changed as he hurriedly stood up and shouted, The severity of the situation had far exceeded his expectations. It's useless no matter who comes today. Jia was furious. He couldn't hear him at all. He saw that Qin Feiyong was about to be captured by him. But suddenly, Qin Feiyong disappeared from the face of the earth without any warning. Jia's eyes widened in disbelief. Elder He also stood up abruptly and scanned every corner of the hall. Luo Xiong secretly heaved a sigh of relief. His face was also filled with surprise. He was right in front of him a moment ago, but he disappeared without a trace in an instant. Where did this kid go? Whoosh! Qin Feiyong appeared out of thin air again and said indifferently, "Don't waste your time. You can't catch me." How is this possible? Jia stared at Qin Feiyong without blinking. He couldn't believe it. He came without a shadow and left without a trace. Was this kid a ghost? Qin Feiyong looked up at Luo Xiong and said, "Hallmaster, I just came out to ask you one thing. Do you also want the Nether Devil Flame? If I wanted it, I would have already made a move on you on the way here." Luo Xiong sighed deeply and advised Haotian, leaving the Danwang Hall, "You can't move an inch. Give them the Nether Devil Flame, just treat it as giving me face." Qin Feiyong shook his head and said, "I can agree to anything else, but not the Nether Devil Flame. Thank you for taking care of me these past few months. Also, help me thank Elder Imo." Finished. He looked at Elder He and Jia. "Danwang Hall, remember I Zhang Haotian, will make you regret it for the rest of your life." Suddenly, he roared, his long hair fluttering, as if he was possessed by a demon god. It gave Jia and Luo Xiong a great sense of oppression. The next moment, he disappeared again. His roar spread in all directions. Who knew how many people were alarmed? What happened? Why is Zhang Lauda so angry? Fatso stood in front of a medicinal field. Lu Hong also walked out of the reception hall and looked in the direction of the meeting hall. Her eyes were full of surprise. Shouldn't he be focused on training? Why did he turn hostile instead? Rebel, rebel. Jia was mad with anger. His face was even darker than before. He glared at Luo Xiong and roared, "This is the person you brought? He is simply an uneducated bastard." Swish. This time, Qin Feiyong appeared again. However, at this moment he was like a ferocious beast staring at Jia. His eyes were as if they were dyed with blood red. Originally, he did not plan to show his face and concentrate on copying the Huan character formula. But he did not expect that Jia would actually scold him outside. If it was any other scolding, he would not care. But the words uneducated bastard and bastard were absolutely intolerable. Jia, listen to me clearly. Sooner or later, there will be a day when I will kill you with my own hands. He smiled sinisterly and disappeared again. But those cold and ferocious words echoed in the hall for a long time, filled with an incomparably strong murderous intent. "Come on, if you have the guts, come and kill me now." Jia roared, bristling with anger. "Enough!" Luo Xiong suddenly roared. "You dare to yell at me?" Jia turned to look at him, his old eyes cold and piercing. Previously in front of the chief palace master, I have been opposing because I know his character too well. He will definitely fall out. Moreover, he snatched the Nether Devil Flame with his own ability. Why should we ask him to hand it over? If we do this, what is the difference between us and bandits? However, you did not listen and insisted that he hand over the Nether Devil Flame. Now it's good. A level 9 mental energy genius, a monster who can refine top-grade pills, was angered away by you. Are you satisfied with this result? Forget it, I don't care anymore. Anyway, I have done my duty. What will happen in the end has nothing to do with me. After taking the pill fire, I will return to Black Bear City. After Luo Xiong finished speaking, he flicked his sleeves and left. Sigh. Elder, he sighed. Perhaps this time we have really done wrong. Let's go and see the chief palace master and ask his opinion. Jia swept his gaze across the hall, filled with anger, and left with Elder He. Inside the ancient castle, Qin Feiyong closed his eyes and clenched his fists so tightly that his hands were dripping blood. Wolf King at the side watched anxiously. After an unknown period of time, he finally opened his eyes and looked at Wolf King. White-eyed wolf, do you want to know my true identity? Wolf King said, if you want to say it, Brother Wolf will listen. If you don't say it, Brother Wolf won't ask. Qin Feiyong said, actually, I am really a prince of the great Qin Empire. Wolf King's huge body trembled, and his eyes also shone brightly. Among all the princes I am ranked 14th. So in the imperial capital, I am called the 14th prince. At that time my talent was extraordinary. At the age of 10, I had already stepped into the 9-star martial master realm. If there were no accidents, I would be the next emperor of the great Qin Empire. But at this point, Qin Feiyong closed his eyes again, his face full of pain. Wolf King hurriedly said, if you don't want to remember, then don't. No matter what happens in the future, Brother Wolf will always stand by your side and help you share the burden. Thank you. Qin Feiyong opened his eyes and looked at it gratefully. He shook his head and said, I really don't want to recall the past. When I am ready, I will tell you everything. Right now, I can only tell you that the most ruthless royal family. Wolf King's pupils constricted. What exactly happened back then to make him say such a thing? It opened its mouth and laughed sinisterly. So you have such a great background. No wonder you have so many perfect martial skills. Look, Brother Wolf supports you so much. When you take back the world and become the emperor, shouldn't you also give Brother Wolf a title like the country protector divine beast? Just you wait, dream on. Qin Feiyong shook his head and laughed. After sorting out his emotions, he began to draw the 5th stroke. The world. He didn't care. Chapter 127. Elder He went to the Grand Hallmaster for a discussion, but no one knew the outcome. The Grand Hallmaster did not appear either. It was very mysterious. Luo Xiong did not leave Yen City immediately after obtaining the alchemy fire. Instead, he went to look for Fatso. Because Fatso was close to Qin Feiyong, he wanted Fatso to help persuade him. After learning about the whole incident, Fatso agreed readily that he would help persuade him. However, as soon as Luo Xiong left, he slipped out of the Danwang Hall and even urged Lu Hong to help spread the news. There was no suspense. The news immediately spread like wildfire in Yen City, causing a huge uproar. In the reception hall, Lu Hong frowned. Will we harm Jiang Haotian by doing this? No. Fatso waved his hand and smiled mischievously. We're helping him become famous. Lu Hong said, but, no buts. You've already boarded the pirate ship. It's hard for you to get off. Fatso smiled mischievously. Bastard, I knew you were up to no good. Lu Hong flew into a rage and slapped him. Fatso quickly dodged. Aya, don't be like this. You don't know Zhang Laoda. He won't let this matter rest. When he comes out, he'll definitely make a big move and slap the Danwang Hall in the face. We're paving the way for him now. Fatso said seriously. Paving the way? Lu Hong was stunned and puzzled. Once this matter spreads, everyone will definitely know about it. Wouldn't it be more explosive and effective to slap people in the face like this? Fatso sneered. Lu Hong's face twitched when she heard this. She looked at Fatso strangely and reminded him, don't forget, you're also a disciple of the Danwang Hall now. TSK. Fatso's face was full of disdain. If the Danwang Hall is filled with such shameless people, then Fat Lord might as well roam the world with Zhang Laoda. You have the courage but I don't. Lu Hong shook her head. Fatso said disdainfully, useless. Fat Lord, let me tell you something. Following Zhang Laoda is more promising than following Danwang Hall. Keep bragging. Lu Hong rolled her eyes. Blow? Fatso was stunned. He shook his head and said, woman, you really don't have any eyesight at all. Zhang Laoda's dagger and the treasure that can hide anywhere, are they ordinary things? Lu Hong's pupils shrank. After being reminded by Fatso, she remembered something very important. When they were at the Eagle Claw Peak, they hid in the treasure, but Zuan, who was outside, didn't notice them at all. This was enough to explain. The treasure was even more powerful than an 8-star combat emperor. How could the person who owned such a treasure be an ordinary person? Fat Lord has said everything that needs to be said. It's up to you to decide what to do. However, Fat Lord, I sincerely advise you not to betray Zhang Laoda. You know Zhang Laoda's methods. The consequences, I don't need Fat Lord to say it. You know it very well. Fatso grinned and turned to leave. Lu Hong also returned to her seat. She lowered her head and pondered. After daybreak, Ling Yunfei also received the news. He was furious on the spot. Bastard! Qin Feiyong had painstakingly snatched the nether devil flame. What reason did those old bastards of the Danwang Hall have to ask him to hand it over? How could there be such a good thing in the world? No, I have to seek justice for Qin Feiyong. He hurriedly left the cultivation room, but was stopped by Feng Ling Air, who had just arrived. After closing the stone door, Feng Ling Air said in a low voice, "You can't interfere in this matter." Why? Ling Yunfei raised his eyebrows. Because this is the rule. The other forces are not allowed to interfere in the internal affairs of the four major forces. If you go now, the Danwang Hall has every reason to kill you. Feng Ling Air said. Then do you want me to sit here and worry? Ling Yunfei said angrily. You and Qin Feiyong have known each other for so long. Don't you know him? He won't do things that he isn't sure of. Since he has decided to turn hostile, he must have thought of a way out. What you need to do now is to cultivate quietly. Don't go and cause trouble for him. Feng Ling Air said. In the ancient castle, Qin Feiyong was very distressed. The further he progressed in the return formula, the longer it would take. He estimated that the fifth stroke would take at least 3 months. With his talent, his previous foundation, and the potential mark, he could break through a small realm in less than 3 months. In other words, the return formula could not help him speed up. Instead, it slowed him down. However, when he thought of the power of the return formula, he was very eager to have it immediately. Therefore, although he was very distressed, he gritted his teeth and continued to copy. As expected, 3 months later, the fifth stroke was successfully copied. His cultivation also increased to a 6-star martial master. At this time, the strength of his punch was equivalent to the strength of 6 brute elephants. With the perfect skill, it was equivalent to the strength of 10 brute elephants. In other words, his strength had exceeded that of a 9-star martial master. If it was a 9-star martial master who had not mastered the skill, he could kill him with one punch. In about 5 months, I will be 16 years old. A 16-year-old 6-star martial master is considered a genius in Yen City. But in the capital, it is far from enough. Qin Feiyong muttered to himself. There was no joy of breaking through at all, because in his opinion this strength was simply insignificant. He had to continue to become stronger. And fast. He continued to copy the 6th stroke. As long as he successfully mastered the return formula, he could concentrate on improving his cultivation. By then, his speed would definitely increase by leaps and bounds. However, on this day, Fatso sneaked into the conference hall like a thief. Seeing that there was no one around, he whispered, Jiang Laoda, Fat Lord knows you are hiding here. He came out when he heard it. What are you doing? After a while, Qin Feiyong appeared in the conference hall and looked at him in confusion. Fatso's eyes lit up. He hurried over and asked, It's been 3 months. Why haven't you taken action? Action? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Fatso said, Don't you want to take revenge on the Danwang Hall? You know? Qin Feiyong asked. Yes. Fatso nodded and said with a sinister smile, as early as that day, Luo Xiong had already told Fat Lord and asked Fat Lord to help persuade him. He didn't think that Fat Lord was that kind of person without loyalty. Qin Feiyong shook his head and laughed. To be honest, Fatty really didn't have any good points other than being loyal. Suddenly, he thought of something and said, I want to ask you to do me a favor. Fatso said unhappily, Don't be so polite. Just say it. Qin Feiyong took out the prescription of the red fire-colored glass pill and handed it to Fatso. He said, Help me find these medicinal materials. Fatso looked carefully and said with a smile, Except for the red fire-colored glass tree and the fire ginseng, the field has all the other medicinal materials. How many portions do you want? No fire ginseng? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. Although the fire ginseng is not as rare as the red fire-colored glass tree, it is not common. I'm afraid only the treasure pavilion has it. Fatso said. Qin Feiyong pondered for a moment and nodded. Okay, I'll think of a way to get the fire ginseng. Get me 3 portions of the other medicinal materials. Because there were only 3 leaves of the red fire-colored glass tree, he could only refine 3 red fire-colored glass pills. Fatso nodded without hesitation. Okay, but you have to find an opportunity. Because the field is not only guarded by Fat Lord, but also by a deacon elder. He keeps a close watch. No. Fatso seemed to suddenly think of something and said in surprise, do you have the leaves of the red fire-colored glass tree? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and asked, does Ling Yunfei know about my current situation? Fatso looked at him in disbelief and said, Fat Lord deliberately spread the news. Of course he knows. More than 2 months ago, he sent a letter saying that he can't intervene. He hopes you can understand. Qin Feiyang said, what about the letter? Fatso said, Fat Lord has destroyed it. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, well done. Jia He, Elder He, and Grand Hall Master, are there any movements? Fatso shook his head and said, no, they don't seem to care about this at all. It's not that they don't care. They just want to compete with me in patience. Qin Feiyang sneered. Clatter. This time, a series of footsteps sounded. Someone was coming. Fatso's face changed greatly and hurriedly said, what should we do? If they find out that Fat Lord sneaked into the Great Council Hall, they will definitely not forgive me. What are you panicking for? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him, grabbed Fatso and went to the castle. As soon as the two disappeared, 2 old men walked into the Great Council Hall one after another. It was Elder He and Jia He. Jia He sat down on a chair and said angrily, this little bastard, how long is he going to hide? Elder He smiled confidently and said, don't worry. He will come out sooner or later and take the initiative to apologize to us. He will also hand over the Nether Devil Flame and beg us to take him in. Jia He sneered and said, at that time, even if he begs, I won't forgive him. I will throw him into a pig cage and keep him there for 10 days to half a month. Elder He nodded and said, we have to teach him a lesson. We have to let him know that even if he is a monster in the alchemy world, he will still have to behave himself in front of the Danwang Hall. The two talked about a few more trivial matters, and then left the Great Council Hall. Whoosh! Soon, Qin Feiyang and Fatso appeared out of thin air. Fatso said, they are indeed trying to test your patience. Qin Feiyang asked, the Danwang Hall also has pig cages? Fatso said, the Pill Hall's pig cages are modeled after the Danwang Hall. Don't you think so? Immediately, Qin Feiyang clenched his hands. He actually wanted to throw him into the pig cage. This Jia He's heart was even darker than a person's. He said to Fatso, you go back first. What about you? Fatso asked. Qin Feiyang sneered and said, you have waited for so long, of course I won't disappoint you. Fatso's eyes lit up and asked, what do you want to do? You will know very soon. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a shocking cold light. Then Fat Lord will wait for your good news. Fatso chuckled and turned to leave quickly. His face was also full of expectation. I didn't plan to make a move so early, but you can only blame yourselves for not knowing the situation. Now you will regret it. Qin Feiyang mumbled. Chapter 128. Is he Zhang Haotian? That's right. It's him. He's been missing for 3 months. I thought he had left Yen City. I didn't expect him to still be here. The moment Qin Feiyang appeared, the Danwang Hall exploded. The news quickly spread to Jia He and Elder He's ears. Why aren't you hiding anymore? I thought you had some backbone. I didn't expect you to be such a wretch. Hand over the Nether Devil Flame and face the wall for half a month. Then I'll let bygones be bygones. The two immediately rushed over and stood in front of Qin Feiyang, mocking and ridiculing him. However, Qin Feiyang only glanced at them indifferently before walking past them. He didn't even look back as he left. Seeing Qin Feiyang's attitude, the two immediately blew their beards and glared at him. Where do you think you're going? Jia He shouted coldly. Qin Feiyang remained silent. No, he's walking towards the door. Is he leaving the Danwang Hall? Elder He was surprised. Leaving? Jia He was furious. After waiting for 3 months, not only did he not come to apologize, he even wanted to leave the Danwang Hall. This was ridiculous. Elder He shouted, Zhang Haotian, if you dare to step out of the Danwang Hall's door, you're no longer a disciple of the Danwang Hall. You better think about it seriously. Qin Feiyang still didn't say anything. When he reached the door of the Danwang Hall, he walked out without hesitation. Elder He could no longer stay calm. He shouted angrily, "Bastard, are you trying to rebel?" Lu Hong also walked out from the reception hall and advised, "Zhang Haotian, let's talk nicely. There's no need to make a scene like this." Zhang Haotian? Wow, I finally see him in person. Let's go take a look. Let's see if he has 3 heads and 6 arms. The passers-by on the street immediately surrounded them. Their eyes were filled with curiosity as they discussed among themselves. Qin Feiyong smiled at Lu Hong and turned to look at the crowd. He smiled faintly. "Excuse me? You can still smile?" The crowd was stunned. Didn't they see Elder He and Jia He flip out? Hearing about him couldn't compare to meeting. This kid's guts. The crowd in front of Qin Feiyong quickly parted and made a path for him. Qin took a step forward. "From now onwards, no, from 3 months ago, I have nothing to do with the Danwang Hall. From now onwards, no, since 3 months from now." Qin Feiyong then took out his identity token. "What are you doing?" Seeing this, Elder He said angrily, "Since I've already left the Danwang Hall, there's no need for this thing to exist." Qin Feiyong clenched his fist. With a crack, the token was crushed into pieces. This meant that he had officially left the Danwang Hall. His action caused an uproar. Everyone's faces were filled with disbelief. Others dreamt of entering the Pill Emperor Hall. Yet this young man didn't even hesitate to shatter his identity medallion. Was the Danwang Hall really so unbearable in his eyes? Elder He and Jia He were shaking with anger. No one had ever dared to be so arrogant in front of the Danwang Hall. No disciple had ever voluntarily left the Danwang Hall. Usually it was the Danwang Hall that kicked out disciples they didn't like. Today, however, it was the other way around. This kid's attitude toward the Danwang Hall was like facing a pile of dog poop. Extreme disdain and extreme disgust. It was a slap to the Danwang Hall's face. "Do you want to know where I'm going? I'm going to the Martial Imperial Hall. Those who want to know if I can enter the Martial Imperial Hall can come and join in the fun." Qin Feiyong said without turning his head. "What? To the Martial Imperial Hall? Isn't this embarrassing for the Danwang Hall? He must be doing this on purpose. I want to go and see what he's capable of. Why is he so confident?" "I'm going too." Most of the people followed Qin Feiyong. Those who didn't go looked at the Danwang Hall playfully. If this kid really did enter the Martial Imperial Hall, they would lose not only a monstrous disciple and the Nether Devil Flame, but also face indignity. The Martial Imperial Hall would be the biggest winner. Jia He and Elder He finally realized that this matter had blown out of proportion and was already out of their control. The two of them flew into the air to discuss with the Grand Hall Master. Only the Grand Hall Master had the ability to settle this matter. Not long after receiving the Grand Hall Master's instructions, the two of them flew into the air again and rushed to the Martial Imperial Hall. The Martial Imperial Hall. In a large hall, a middle-aged man in purple sat on the main seat. His eyebrows were as sharp as swords, and his body was tall and straight. There were 2 other people beside him. One of them was Elder Wan. The other person was a beautiful woman. She was wearing a purple and gold dress, and her long black hair was tied up. She looked elegant and had an extraordinary temperament. The man in purple looked at the 2 of them and asked, "You've also received the news, right?" Elder Wan and the beautiful woman nodded. The man in purple said, "Then tell me what you think." "I'll go first. To be honest, when I went to pick them up that night, I wanted to invite Zhang Haotian to join the Martial Imperial Hall, but Elder He was there, so I didn't say anything. Now that we have such a good opportunity, we naturally can't reject this kid." Elder Wan smiled. "Think so too. Not only is this kid monstrously talented in alchemy, but I heard from Ling and Yun Fei that he's also outstanding in martial arts. We have no reason to reject such an all-round talent." The beautiful woman also expressed her opinion. The violet-robed man nodded. "I know this as well. But this young man obviously wants to borrow the power of our Martial King Hall to make things difficult for the Pill Emperor Hall. If we allow him to join us, I'm afraid the Pill Emperor Hall would be extremely unhappy." The beautiful woman said unhappily, "To put it bluntly, you just hate him for using our Martial Imperial Hall." The man in purple's expression froze and he smiled bitterly. "It's fine as long as you know it. Why do you have to point it out?" The beautiful woman rolled her eyes and shook her head. So be it. It's worth it to get such a talent. At this moment, Elder He and Jia He descended from the sky and rushed into the hall. What are you doing here? The man in purple frowned. Elder He said, the Grand Hall Master asked us to come. He wants you to ignore Jiang Haotian. The man in purple was stunned, and he sneered, do you think that's possible? Elder He said, the Grand Hall Master already guessed that you would do this. If you insist on snatching him, we can only report it to the state government and let the state government make a decision. Jia He added, Jiang Haotian's talent in alchemy far surpasses his talent in martial arts. I believe that the final result will belong to our Danwang Hall. The man in purple laughed. You guys are really unscrupulous. But since you want him to stay in the Danwang Hall so badly, why do you have to drive him away? Don't you think it's troublesome? How could we have known that he has such a strong temper? Elder He revealed a helpless expression. The beautiful woman sneered. Now that things have come to this, it'll be difficult to make him change his mind. Jia He said disdainfully, don't worry about that. As long as he hits a wall in the Martial Imperial Hall and has nowhere to go, he'll naturally go to the Danwang Hall to beg us. The beautiful woman sneered. Good plan. I'm just afraid that it'll backfire when the time comes. Jia He said, we know what we're doing. You don't have to worry about it. The beautiful woman frowned and looked at the man in purple. After a moment of silence, the man in purple nodded, all right, as you wish. Elder Wan, I'll leave this matter to you. Me? Elder Wan's old face twitched, and he shook his head. I won't be the bad guy. Moreover, if I go, Linger and Yunfei will hate me to death. Then I'll go. The beautiful woman said helplessly. When Qin Feiyang arrived at the Martial Imperial Hall, it was already afternoon. The layout of the Martial Imperial Hall was similar to that of the Danwang Hall. In the reception hall, the beautiful woman had been waiting for a long time. However, when she walked out and saw the densely packed crowd behind Qin Feiyang, she immediately frowned. It seemed that this kid wouldn't stop until he caused a storm in the city. She looked at Qin Feiyang and shook her head. Jiang Haotian, the Martial Imperial Hall can't take you in. You should find another place. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Soon he figured it out. It must be the Danwang Hall behind this. The corners of Qin Wenqian's lips curled up as he shook his head. Who would have thought that the Martial King Hall would actually listen to the Pill Emperor Hall? What a joke. What's the difference between such a place and the Pill Emperor Hall? The beautiful woman frowned. I don't need you to rush me. I'll leave immediately. But from today onwards, the Martial Imperial Hall will become a laughing stock. Qin Feiyang laughed and walked away. The crowd in front also automatically opened up a path for him. The beautiful woman frowned and said, wait, it's not impossible to enter the Martial Imperial Hall, but you have to pass 2 tests. Qin Feiyang stopped, turned around and asked, what tests? The first test, strength. The second test, actual combat. The beautiful woman said. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. The beautiful woman said, throw a punch at me with all your strength, then I'll offend you. Heart lock killing fist. Qin Feiyang clenched his fist and rushed in front of the beautiful woman like a wild bull. He covered his fist with true qi and threw a punch. The beautiful woman only stretched out her hand and blocked Qin Feiyang's fist. However, her face instantly changed and she said in surprise, the strength of 10 barbarian elephants. Have you broken through to a 6-star martial master? Qin Feiyang stopped and smiled. I just broke through not long ago. Gasp. The beautiful woman secretly sucked in a breath of cold air. Some time ago, she asked Ling Yunfei about Qin Feiyang's situation. Not long before he left Black Bear City, he broke through to a 5-star martial master. In other words, he only used 3 months to raise his cultivation by a small level. With such speed, even in the Martial Imperial Hall, he would be a top genius. Chapter 129. Qin Feiyang asked, Senior, did I pass the first test? The beautiful woman came back to her senses and nodded, pass. Now let's begin the second test. 6-star martial master, step forward. Behind the beautiful woman, there were many disciples of the martial arts hall. As soon as the voice sounded, a dozen people immediately stepped forward. Gang fight. Qin Feiyong frowned. He looked at them one by one. There were men and women, tall and short, fat and thin, but without exception, they were all very young and had an extraordinary temperament. The beautiful woman said, "Whoever can defeat him will be rewarded with 30,000 gold coins." "Let me." A young man in black stepped forward and landed in front of Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong said, "I'm afraid one is not enough." "Arrogant." The young man in black roared. Boom. His aura burst out and his true chi surged. He slapped at Qin Feiyong. Reckless ox fist. Qin Feiyong did not hesitate to use a martial technique and punched the young man in black. Wah! The young man in black smashed into the crowd and spat out a mouthful of blood. Lying on the ground, he glared at Qin Feiyong and roared, "Bastard! You actually used a martial technique. You're too despicable." Qin Feiyong said lightly, "No matter who you fight, as long as it's a battle, you have to go all out. Didn't the martial arts hall teach you this?" The young man in black still wanted to say something. The beautiful woman shouted, "Next!" A woman in red walked out. She was about 20 years old. She was tall and had exquisite facial features. She was quite stunning. "I'll defeat you in one move." However, she was extremely strong. She pointed at Qin Feiyong and was extremely cold and arrogant. "Come on, don't talk nonsense." Qin Feiyong said calmly with one hand behind his back. Phantom palm. The woman in red waved her palm and true chi surged in her palm. For a moment, in front of Qin Feiyong, 3 palms appeared. The palm wind whistled and sand flew. This martial technique could confuse the opponent's eyes and take advantage of the situation to kill the opponent in one move. It was hard to distinguish between real and fake. However, Qin Feiyong didn't look at the 3 palms. Instead, he stared at the ground. What is he doing? Everyone was puzzled. Reckless ox fist. Just as the 3 palms were about to land on Qin Feiyong's face, he suddenly punched out and hit the palms of the woman in red. Bang! Both of them took half a step back. "You can actually see?" The red-clothed woman was bewildered. She found it hard to believe. Qin Feiyong said indifferently, "No matter how fast you are, you will still cast a shadow on the ground. Remember to find a place where there is no sun the next time you use this martial technique." The woman in red was extremely shocked. This person was actually able to see through the flaws of the phantom fist at the first meeting. Wasn't his eyesight a little too shocking? Qin Feiyong said, "You are no match for me. Back down. Otherwise, don't say that I bullied a woman." The red-clothed woman's eyes turned cold as she shouted, "Defeat me first and then you can be arrogant." Illusion extinguishing palm. At this moment, 9 palms actually appeared in front of Qin Feiyong's eyes. Even if there were shadows on the ground, it was impossible to tell which palm was the real one. This was because the speed was simply too fast. It was at least several times faster than before. Qin Feiyong only took a glance and felt his eyes turning sour. "Kid, let's see how you will break this move of mine." The red-clothed woman rushed forward. Her 9 palms were aimed at Qin Feiyong with an earth-shattering momentum. Qin Feiyong took a closer look and said in realization, "So it's a perfect martial technique. No wonder you are so confident. Since you know, then surrender." The red-clothed woman shouted. Qin Feiyong narrowed his eyes slightly. The illusion extinguishing palm was extremely fast. Martial artists of the same realm couldn't tell which one was real and which one was fake. This was indeed a top-notch perfect martial technique. He believed that this woman should also be a core disciple of the Martial Imperial Hall. With her strength, she was already strong enough to dominate the same realm. But for Qin Feiyong, who had hundreds of perfect martial techniques, such strength was far from enough. The 9 palms were menacing. The shocking palm wind was like a sharp blade, cutting Qin Feiyong's face, causing a stinging pain. But he didn't retreat half a step. His eyes were as calm as water. "You lost." The red-clothed woman had already arrived in front of Qin Feiyong with a victorious smile on her face. "Is that so?" Qin Feiyong raised the corner of his mouth with a trace of ridicule. Tiger-binding hand. His right hand reached out like lightning. Like an eagle claw, it broke through layers of illusions and grabbed the red-clothed woman's wrist. How could this be? The red-clothed woman stopped and looked at Qin Feiyong, who was close at hand. Her face was full of confusion. The group of martial Imperial Hall disciples beside her also had a face of disbelief. The illusion extinguishing palm was the most powerful martial technique of the martial Imperial Hall. No matter who the opponent was, as long as their cultivation was the same, the illusion extinguishing palm would always be invincible. However, at this moment, how could it be so easily broken by this person? Was this a dream? Qin Feiyong said. Actually, you haven't displayed the true power of the illusion extinguishing palm. The red-clothed woman was startled. The group of martial Imperial Hall disciples also had a face of confusion. As for the beautiful woman, her eyes were emitting rays of light. I judged it from your strength. Your current strength seems to be the strength of 10 barbarian elephants, but in fact it's still a bit away from that. There's no problem with your cultivation. Then there's only one reason. You haven't practiced the illusion extinguishing palm to perfection. Qin Feiyong said. The red-clothed woman looked at Qin Feiyong in disbelief. After a long time, she lowered her head and said, I've lost. Qin Feiyong let go of his hand and said, What you lack is not proficiency, but actual combat. If you're free, go outside the city and fight with the beasts. It won't take long for you to display the full power of the illusion extinguishing palm. Of course, if you think of yourself as a delicate princess, then you can ignore my words. He added. After seeing this, everyone's expression became strange. Was this still a trial? He was clearly an experienced teacher who was teaching his disciples. The beautiful woman's heart was burning with passion. He was able to see through the weakness of the illusion palm and find the weakness of the red-clothed woman. Most importantly, this kid was only 15 years old. That woman was already 20 years old. There was a difference of 5 years. At such a young age, he had such a clear understanding of martial skills. He was simply a genius in martial arts. Elder He and Jia He were currently standing in front of the window of the reception hall. They had witnessed the entire process with their own eyes and were left speechless. This kid's martial talent was definitely not weaker than his pill alchemy talent. This was troublesome, because they could see that the beautiful woman was tempted. The beautiful woman suddenly turned her head and looked at the 6-star martial masters who had just stepped forward. She shouted, All of you attack together. What? Attack together? There are a total of 12 6-star martial masters. Isn't this clearly bullying Jiang Haotian? The crowd was shocked. The 12 people were also astonished. The beautiful woman said, If you defeat him, each of you will be rewarded 100,000 gold coins. 100,000. Then what are we waiting for? Attack. The 12 people immediately rushed toward Qin Feiyong. Moreover, none of them showed mercy and used the illusion extinguishing palm at the first moment. The afterimages of hundreds of palms were like raging waves beating the shore, attacking Qin Feiyong from all directions. All the escape routes are blocked. Those 12 people are also the core disciples of the Danwang Hall. Jiang Haotian should be at his wits' end. Defeat is inevitable, but even if he loses, it will be a glorious loss. That's true. The crowd was discussing. Defeat? Qin Feiyong sneered inwardly. Boom! He abruptly stomped on the ground and leaped high into the air, landing behind one of the men. That person was shocked and quickly turned around. However, just as he turned around, Qin Feiyong pointed a finger at his right shoulder. That person screamed as a bloody hole appeared on his shoulder and blood gushed out. What? He seriously injured one person in an instant. Look, there's something wrong with his index finger. The crowd looked carefully and found that Qin Feiyong's index finger had turned into ice. That's right. It was the ice crystal finger. At the same time, the remaining 11 people were also shocked. They quickly turned around and continued to attack Qin Feiyong. Even if I don't use the smoke-shifting steps, I can still finish you off. Qin Feiyong smiled coldly and instantly turned into a human-shaped Tyrannosaurus, fighting with the 11 people. Tiger-binding hand. Wind thunder palm. Ice crystal finger. Heart-locking fist. He casually waved his hand and pointed at them. They were all perfect martial skills. At this moment, every nerve and cell in his body became incomparably sensitive. He didn't even need to turn around to feel the situation behind him. Every time he attacked, there was no extra movement, it was clean and neat. Moreover, he never missed. Every time he attacked, one person would definitely be seriously injured and fall to the ground. This was his battle instinct. Qin Feiyong had completely entered battle mode. Although there was a sea of people around at this moment, it was dead silent. Everyone's mouth was open and their eyes were wide open, filled with shock. One had to know. The strength of the core disciples of the martial imperial palace was enough to dominate those of the same realm. However, the 12 of them together couldn't do anything to Jiang Haoyan. The beautiful woman's hands were tightly clenched together. Her eyes were shining like two bright moons. She had a high cultivation level and could see at a glance that Qin Feiyong didn't use his brain to think about each of his moves. They were completely controlled by his instincts. This kind of battle instinct could only be slowly cultivated through endless killing and the baptism of blood. In other words, this kid had already been through hundreds of battles. When danger approached, he didn't even need to use his eyes to see. His body could feel it. As for the core disciples of the martial imperial palace, although they had daily training, they had never experienced a life-and-death battle. They were two completely different types of people. There was no comparison at all. More importantly, she observed and found that this kid had no less than 4 perfect martial skills. This made her feel incredible, because even the martial imperial palace only had 1 perfect martial skill. Bang bang bang. Ah! After 10 breaths, the 11 core disciples fell to the ground one after another, groaning in pain. At this moment, they looked at Qin Feiyong with only fear in their eyes. Then they looked at Qin Feiyong. He only suffered some minor injuries. Phew! He let out a long breath and glanced at the core disciples. He raised his head to look at the beautiful woman and said, "I don't want to continue this boring game." The beautiful woman took a deep breath and nodded. "For you, this is indeed just a boring game." Everyone was dumbfounded. Such an exciting battle, and he said it was boring? Qin Feiyong asked, "Did I pass the second test?" "Yes." The beautiful woman nodded and said, "The entrance of the martial imperial palace is right beside you. You can enter at any time." "I don't agree. Elder He Jiahe, how could they sit still?" They hurriedly ran out of the reception hall and began to panic. Chapter 130. Qin Feiyong turned to look at the two, his face full of sarcasm. And he didn't hide it. The surrounding people's eyes also became playful. The atmosphere here was a little strange. "What do you mean?" Elder He and Qin Feiyong came over and looked at the beautiful woman with questioning eyes. The beautiful woman said indifferently, "You saw it very clearly. His martial arts talent is no less than his alchemy talent. My martial imperial hall has no reason to help you." Elder He said, "But you promised us before. As the ruler of the martial imperial hall, shouldn't you keep your word?" The beautiful woman laughed and said, "We did promise you, but who knew he was so cute?" Jiahe's eyes darkened and shouted, "You, don't say I'm unrighteous. It's you who didn't know how to cherish talent. If it weren't for your insatiable greed and forcing him to hand over the nether devil flame, would he have left the Danwang Hall? In the end you asked for it." The beautiful woman didn't hide her sarcasm. Jiahe stared at the beautiful woman. His hands clenched so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. Obviously, his anger had reached its peak. Sigh. Elder He sighed deeply and turned to look at Qin Feiyong with a complicated expression. "We were wrong in the past. I hope you can forgive us." Qin Feiyong's mouth lifted and said indifferently, "I'm just an insignificant nobody. How would I dare to let Elder He apologize personally?" Elder He's expression stiffened and he forced a smile. "Follow us back to the Danwang Hall first. As for other matters, we can discuss them later." Discuss? So, you haven't given up. Interesting. The dignified Danwang Hall not only doesn't protect the interests of its disciples, but also relies on its power to exploit them. What's the difference between this and a bandit's nest? Qin Feiyong mocked. The anger in his heart grew stronger and stronger. These old bastards were the most shameless people he had ever seen. Elder He's face was gloomy. In his opinion, being able to go this far for a junior was already giving him enough face. However, the other party was unforgiving and spoke rudely again and again. Not only was this trampling on his dignity, it was also an insult to the Danwang Hall. "Are you very angry and want to kill me?" Qin Feiyong sneered. Elder He and Elder He did not answer, but the look in their eyes said it all. Before scheming against others, you have to take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror to see if you have the ability. Although you are very strong, even an idiot would be able to see through your thoughts with a single glance. A competition of patience? You want me to apologize to you and beg you to take me in? Did you really think that the Danwang Hall was so powerful that I wouldn't be able to survive if I left the Danwang Hall? Don't think too highly of yourself. The sun will still rise no matter who you leave. I won't go back to the Danwang Hall. That place is disgusting. Do you remember what I said 3 months ago? Let's see who will regret it in the future. Now this is just the beginning. Qin Feiyong glanced at the two of them mockingly, then turned to the beautiful woman and cupped his hands. Please forgive me. After that, he turned and left. The beautiful woman was stunned. The surrounding crowd was also shocked. Didn't he pass the test? Why didn't he enter the Martial Imperial Hall? So he was just using the Martial Imperial Hall to slap the Danwang Hall's face? Was all of this just a farce that he had planned? At first, everyone thought that the final winner would be the Martial Imperial Hall. However, the result was, the Martial Imperial Hall did not get any benefits at all. He himself was the biggest winner. Not only did he show his potential and talent to attract the attention of the Martial Imperial Hall, but he also put the Danwang Hall in an awkward position. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. This person's brain was really not simple. Seeing that Qin Feiyong was about to enter the crowd, the beautiful woman hurriedly said, Zhang Haotian, if you join the Martial Imperial Hall now, the Grand Hall Master, Elder Wan, and I will immediately help you control the Nether Devil Flame. Elder He and Jia He suddenly turned their heads and glanced at the beautiful woman. Because the beautiful woman's action was undoubtedly to put the Danwang Hall in an even more awkward position. What are you looking at? This is the Martial Imperial Hall. Do you want to fight? The beautiful woman raised her eyebrows and a bone-piercing cold aura emitted from her body. The two of them were as calm as water. They thought that no matter how big the commotion was, they would be able to control the situation. Only now did they realize. As early as 3 months ago, this matter was already out of their control. What should they do now? How could they save all of this? This person already hated them to the bone. What could they do to change his mind? At this moment, the two of them fell into hesitation. At the same time, endless regret surged uncontrollably like a tide, drowning his entire soul. It looks like they're regretting it now. Nonsense, why don't you think about it? How valuable is an alchemist who can refine top-grade pills? Moreover, he's also a martial arts genius. Who wouldn't regret losing such a monstrous talent? Actually, the Danwang Hall shouldn't have tried to steal the Nether Devil Flame from the beginning. That's right. The right thing to do would have been to help him control the Nether Devil Flame like the Martial Imperial Hall. This way all of this wouldn't have happened. On the contrary, Zhang Haotian would be deeply grateful and would pledge his loyalty to the Danwang Hall. They're both in power in the county of Swallow, but why is there such a big difference? The crowd discussed in low voices. And when these discussions landed in the ears of Elder He and Elder He, it made their faces and ears flush red, and they were so ashamed that they could not show their faces. At the same time, when Qin Feiyong heard the beautiful woman's words, he stopped in his tracks and pondered. The beautiful woman smiled and said, If you can't make up your mind right now, you can stay at the Martial Imperial Hall and slowly think about it. This IQ is simply crushing the Danwang Hall. The crowd sighed. Not rushing, not putting on airs, and giving the other party time to think was the greatest respect to others. Once Zhang Haotian nodded and stayed at the Martial Imperial Hall, joining the Martial Imperial Hall would be a done deal. Qin Feiyong raised his head and looked at the beautiful woman. Senior, why don't we work together? Work together. The beautiful woman was stunned and asked how. Qin Feiyong said, Help me control the Nether Devil Flame and I'll refine supreme grade pills for you. However, you have to provide the materials and give me a certain amount of compensation. The beautiful woman's eyes lit up. No. Elder He and Jia He shouted at the same time. If this matter was settled, the profits of the Danwang Hall would be greatly reduced. They definitely wouldn't allow this to happen. Qin Feiyong glanced at the two of them and said indifferently, This is my business. What does it have to do with you? The two of them were like mutes, unable to speak of their bitterness. Qin Feiyang disdainfully looked at the beautiful woman and asked, "Senior, what do you think?" The beautiful woman nodded and said, "All right, I agree to work with you. As for the compensation, we'll discuss it in the conference hall." "No problem." Qin Feiyang smiled and turned around to walk towards the beautiful woman. But at this time, Elder He stepped in front of him and asked, "Could it be that there is no way to turn this matter around? Then tell me, if you were me, what would you do? Would you return to the Dan Hall?" Qin Feiyang asked back. "As long as everything is over, I will return to the Dan Hall." Elder He said, "I admire you, but I'm sorry, I'm not as magnanimous as you. I'm a very stingy person." After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he stepped forward and walked past Elder He. "I don't believe that I can't deal with a brat like you." Jia He couldn't take it anymore. He stretched out his hand and turned it into an eagle's claw, grabbing towards Qin Feiyang's neck. The beautiful woman's expression changed. She hurriedly stepped forward and protected Qin Feiyang behind her. She said coldly, "Old Jia, where do you think this is? How dare you act so presumptuously?" "Old Jia, stop it!" Elder He also hurriedly shouted. Jia He raised his eyebrows and stopped his hand in the air. He glanced at the beautiful woman and then looked at Qin Feiyang. His eyes were as sharp as a blade, extremely sharp. Qin Feiyang walked out from behind the beautiful woman and looked at Jia He without fear. He said indifferently, "Give me 5 years, and I will definitely step on you." Is this a declaration of war? The crowd was shocked. He dared to declare war against the Battle Emperor. Was he borrowing courage from the heavens? Haha, don't say that I didn't give you a chance. I'll give you 10 years. 10 years later, if you can defeat me, I'll kneel down and let you do whatever you want to me. If you can't, I'll cut you into pieces. Jia He was startled, but he then burst out laughing in disdain. Then we'll wait and see. Qin Feiyang replied calmly and walked straight into the Martial Imperial Hall. The beautiful woman frowned and quickly followed behind. After seeing Qin Feiyang disappear from the Martial Imperial Hall, Elder He said angrily, "Old Jia, why are you so stupid? Now that you've caused such a scene, there's no way to turn things around." Jia He said angrily, "Can't you see that he's determined to leave the Danwang Hall? Even so, you shouldn't deepen your hatred. He can refine pills of the highest quality. Do you know what this means? If you don't, I'll tell you now. His future achievements will be greater than ours. He might even have the chance to enter the imperial capital." Elder He roared. The imperial capital. Jia He's eyes trembled. The imperial capital was a legendary place that countless people yearned for. Even he, the law enforcement elder of the Danwang Hall, could only look up to the imperial capital. Elder He continued, "Although the reason why he left the Pill Emperor Hall was because we forced him to hand over the Nether Devil Flame, the biggest reason was because of your attitude back then. What did you say to him? Uneducated bastard. Didn't you see his reaction when he heard those words? He couldn't wait to kill you on the spot. Sigh, I shouldn't have brought you along." Elder He shook his head and sighed regretfully. "Isn't he an uneducated bastard?" Jia He sneered. "You." Elder He glared at him, but swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. He let out a long sigh and looked extremely haggard. "Since it's already like this, it's useless to say more. Let's go back and ask the Grand Hall Master. He might have a way." After saying that, he flew into the sky and disappeared without a trace. Genius. No matter how powerful a genius is, as long as he hasn't grown up, he's nothing to worry about. I'd like to see if you can hide in the Martial Imperial Hall for the rest of your life. Jia He turned his head and looked at the Martial Imperial Hall. His eyes flashed with killing intent as he turned into a ray of divine light and flew away. The main character had left. Those who wanted to join in the fun naturally didn't stay and dispersed. Chapter 131. This time the Danwang Hall didn't just lose a disciple. It also lost its reputation, image, and people's hearts. This was because they used their power to threaten their disciples and steal their things. This kind of bandit behavior was disdainful. This matter would become a stain on the Danwang Hall's reputation that would be difficult to erase. Most importantly, after this incident, The disciples of the Danwang Hall would be wary of the higher-ups. After all, no one wanted to have their hard-earned things snatched away by someone else. This was the chain effect. Martial Imperial Hall. Under the guidance of the beautiful woman, Qin Feiyang walked into the meeting hall. He saw Elder Wan and a man in purple sitting in front of a tea table. They were drinking tea and chatting. The beautiful woman frowned and said angrily, "I offended Old Man He and Old Man Jia outside. And you guys are leisurely drinking tea? Isn't this too much?" He. Elder Wan raised his head and laughed. "It's better for you to offend them alone than to offend all of us." The man in purple said, "Yeah, Yin City is only so big. We can't have a complete falling out with the Danwang Hall." The beautiful woman rolled her eyes at the two of them and led Qin Feiyang over. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said, "Greetings, Elder Wan." Elder Wan nodded and stood up with a smile. "Little guy, the disciples have told us about your performance outside. I didn't expect you to be an all-around monster." "Elder, you flatter me." Qin Feiyang shook his head and looked at the man in purple. He smiled and said, "Senior, you must be the Grand Hall Master." "Yes, I am." The man in purple looked at Qin Feiyang curiously and asked, "Can you tell me why you don't want to become a disciple of the Martial Imperial Hall?" Qin Feiyang said, "I don't want trouble." The man in purple asked, "If that's the case, why did you join the Dan Hall?" Qin Feiyang sighed, "I had no choice. I know about this. This kid offended all the big shots in Black Bear City. He's basically at the point where the whole world is his enemy. Luo Xiong had always wanted him to join the Pill Hall. Hence, he extended his hand and said that he had already joined the Pill Hall. This brat is smart. He took the opportunity to admit his identity as a disciple of the Pill Hall." Elder Wan joked. The purple-clothed man's face twitched. He was so young and already knew how to cause trouble. What would happen when he grew up? He was afraid that the sky would be turned upside down. Qin Feiyang was rather embarrassed. The purple-robed man's face turned serious. He put down the teacup and said, "All right, sit down. Let's talk business. How do we cooperate?" Qin Feiyang nodded and sat opposite the purple-robed man. He organized his thoughts and said, "You provide the pill recipe and herbs, and I will help you refine them. We will each get half of the refined pills. The pill formula and herbs are all provided by us. You only need to refine it once and you want a 50-50 split? Isn't your appetite a little too big?" The purple-robed man frowned. Qin Feiyang said, "Is it big? I don't think so. After all, what I refined is a supreme-grade pill." "I know it's a supreme-grade pill, but it's not a good deal. Because the Martial Imperial Hall doesn't have the pill formula. We have to think of a way to find it. We will definitely have to pay a high price to find these pill formulas. Moreover, we need money to buy the herbs. The most important thing is, without my help, you won't be able to control the Nether Devil Flame. And you want to take half of it without doing anything. Do you think it's realistic?" The purple-robed man asked. Qin Feiyang frowned. The purple-robed man said, "If you insist on a 50-50 split, then I'll leave the pill formula to you. Our Martial Imperial Hall will only provide the ingredients and ensure your safety. If you agree, I'll send a 9-star Battle King to protect you." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. Now, he was most afraid of the Danwang Hall's revenge. Moreover, he had to be wary of Lin Han. It would be much safer to have an expert by his side at all times. But the problem was that the various pill formulas were basically controlled by the Danwang Hall. There were very few that were circulated outside. Where would he find them? "All right, I agree." In the end, Qin Feiyang nodded. As for the pill formula, he couldn't rush it. He would think of a way later. "Young man, you should be more straightforward." The purple-robed man smiled and said, "Take out the Nether Devil Flame." Qin Feiyang didn't move at all. With just a thought, the Nether Devil Flame shot out from between his eyebrows. The three of them looked at each other with a trace of suspicion in their eyes. The purple-robed man stretched out his hand and the Nether Devil Flame fell in front of him. It was suspended in the void. The pitch-black flames moved, giving off a very strange feeling. The beautiful woman said in a deep voice, "It's really the Nether Devil Flame." Elder Wan sighed and said, "For the past 8 years, we all thought that Swan was dead. Who would have thought that not only was he not dead, But he has also stepped into the 8-star combat emperor. When he makes a comeback, the county of Yen will be filled with blood. He is improving, but so are we. We didn't kill him 8 years ago, but the next time he appears we will definitely send him to hell. The purple-robed man smiled coldly. Battle chi gushed out from his palm and turned into a raging wave that rushed towards the nether devil flame. At the same time, the beautiful woman waved her hand and a battle chi boundary formed in an instant, enveloping Qin Feiyong inside. At the same time, in a cave, Zuan and Lin Chun were refining the blood spirit pill with their eyes closed. Puff! Suddenly, Zuan spat out a mouthful of blood. His old eyes suddenly opened and 2 terrifying rays of cold light burst out from his eyes. Lin Chun opened his eyes suspiciously. When he saw Zuan's condition, his expression changed and he asked, "Master, what happened?" Zuan said, "Someone erased the blood contract with the nether devil flame." "Who?" Lin Chun was surprised. Zuan sneered and said, "Who else can it be? It must be the 4 old dogs of King Yen. In the entire Yen County, only they have the ability to do so." Lin Chun frowned and said, "In other words, Zhang Haotian has gone to Yen City?" "Yen City, I will find you." Zuan laughed sinisterly, closed his eyes and continued to cultivate. Conference hall. At this moment it was like a big furnace, filled with a shocking heat wave. If it wasn't for the protection of the battle chi boundary, Qin Feiyong would have been burned to ashes. The reason was that once the blood contract was erased, the nether devil flame would be an ownerless object, and would immediately release high temperature. The purple-robed man waved his sleeve and a majestic battle chi rushed towards the nether devil flame. After a while, that terrifyingly high temperature was actually suppressed by him. Then, he turned his head to look at Qin Feiyong and said in a deep voice, "The alchemy fire needs a lot of blood to recognize its master. Are you ready?" Qin Feiyong nodded and left the battle chi boundary, walking in front of the nether devil flame. The purple-robed man waved his hand and a wave of battle chi flew over. Suddenly a wound appeared on his wrist. Fresh blood spurted out. Qin Feiyong hurriedly raised his arm and placed it on the nether devil flame. Blood flowed continuously into the nether devil flame. Gradually, the originally pitch-black nether devil flame gradually turned blood-red. In the end, it looked as if it had been soaked in blood and looked extremely demonic. Qin Feiyong had lost half of the blood in his body, and he began to feel dizzy. Buzz! Finally, the nether devil flame trembled in the void and the blood-red color quickly faded, turning pitch-black again. At the same time, Qin Feiyong also felt that blood was thicker than water. He felt that the nether devil flame was already a part of his body. The purple-robed man lowered his arm and smiled. "The blood contract has been formed. You are now its master." Qin Feiyong was overjoyed. He bandaged the wound on his wrist and raised his head to look at the nether devil flame with an excited expression. A blood contract was equivalent to a contract. Any treasure that was bound by blood would have a blood contract hidden within the treasure's body. Only when the blood contract was formed could the treasure be controlled at will. If the treasure had an owner, the blood contract would have to be erased before it could be bound by blood again. But to erase a blood contract, not just anyone could do it. The cultivation level had to be at least the same as the original owner. Qin Feiyong originally planned to erase the blood contract with the nether devil flame, and bind it with his blood when his cultivation level caught up with Zuan's. He never thought that the martial imperial palace would help him. However, the purple-robed man's strength had really shocked him. Being able to erase Zuan's blood contract was enough to prove that this man was an 8-star combat emperor. The purple-robed man said, "The matter has been settled. I should go and cultivate. You 3 can discuss the rest." The 3 of them nodded. After the purple-robed man left, Elder Wan said with a smile, "Zhang Haotian, don't be too happy. Now that the nether devil flame has recognized its master, when are you going to start refining pills?" Qin Feiyong's mind moved and the nether devil flame entered the ancient castle again. He asked, "What kind of pills do you want me to refine?" "What kind of pills can you refine?" the beautiful woman asked. Qin Feiyong said, "Healing pill, bone replenishing pill, body tempering pill, chi gathering pill." "Why are they all low-level pills?" the beautiful woman frowned. Qin Feiyong was stunned. This was too much of a blow to him. Elder One shook his head and laughed. He said to the beautiful woman, "Don't forget, he has just started refining pills. It's already very rare for him to be able to refine 4 kinds of pills." The beautiful woman curled her lips in disdain. "Looks like I have to use a big move." Qin Feiyong muttered secretly and said with a smile, "Senior, I can refine the red fire-colored glass pill. Do you have the materials?" "Really?" The two of them were surprised. "Of course." Qin Feiyong nodded. The two of them looked at each other. The red fire-colored glass pill was such a rare pill. He also knew how to refine it. "Kid, did you steal the pill recipe?" Elder One asked in a low voice. "Steal?" Qin Feiyong's face twitched. Did he look like such a person? He coughed dryly and said, "Don't worry about that. As long as you have the medicinal materials, I will refine it for you. But according to the agreement, we will split it 50-50. If the Martial Imperial Hall really had medicinal materials, then he would make a big profit this time." The beautiful woman said, "First, make a list of the medicinal materials and let us take a look." Elder One immediately went to get a brush and ink. Moreover, he personally ground the ink. Qin Feiyong held the brush and quickly wrote down the names of various medicinal materials on a piece of blank paper. After making the list, the beautiful woman and Elder One each held it in their hands and looked at it carefully. Qin Feiyong asked, "How is it? Do you have it?" Elder One put down the list and laughed, "Of course. And we can prepare 6 sets of materials." "So many." Qin Feiyong was wild with joy. Because once he refined it, he would get 3 red fire-colored glass pills. Chapter 132. However, while Qin Feiyong was happy, he found that the beautiful woman and Elder One were looking at him with a thoughtful look. He touched his nose and asked in confusion, "Why are you looking at me like that?" The beautiful woman said, "Why do I feel like I've been tricked by you?" Elder One nodded. "Trap." Qin Feiyong was stunned and said innocently, "Did I?" The beautiful woman said, "If we go to the Danwang Hall and ask them to help us refine these 6 scarlet fire-colored glass dan, we will at most give them 1 scarlet fire-colored glass dan as a reward, but you want 3 here, don't tell me you didn't cheat us?" Cough cough. Qin Feiyong coughed a few times and said seriously, "I am refining the best quality pill." Elder One rolled his eyes and said, "So what if it's the best quality pill? It can only increase a small realm." Ugh. Qin Feiyong was stunned and said, "The best quality pill can't be measured by price. If you have to calculate it like this, then I can't help it." The two looked at each other, as if reaching some kind of agreement, and nodded at the same time. About the scarlet fire-colored glass dan, let's think about it again. If you have nothing to do, you can walk around, or you can go find Ling and Yunfei to talk about old times. We still have something to do, so we'll leave first. I'll call someone to take you to your residence later." Elder One said very tactfully. Then the two of them got up and hurried outside. Qin Feiyong hurriedly got up and shouted, Hey, don't be like this, at most I'll take 1 less." The two of them ignored him and disappeared like a wisp of smoke. "At any rate, it's the War Emperor, can you not be stingy?" Qin Feiyong despised. The duck in his mouth flew away just like that, and he was very unhappy. Returning to the chair, he took out the nether devil flame, and with a slight thought, the black flame rose 1/2 meter high, and a terrifying temperature quickly spread out. But he himself couldn't feel the slightest bit of heat. Qin Feiyong was amazed. It was just that he didn't know what level of pill fire this nether devil flame was. There were strong and weak alchemy fires too. Without a doubt, the pill fire of the Iron Bull Town's pill hall was of the lowest grade. The pill fire of Black Bear City's pill hall should be of a higher grade. Suddenly, he smelt something burning. He looked around suspiciously, and his expression changed. It turned out that the temperature in the conference hall was too high. The tables, chairs, coffee tables, windows, and everything made of wood in the conference hall were all burnt. The fabric was already burning. He hurriedly put away the netherworld devil flame and grabbed the teapot to extinguish the fire. However, the fire was ferocious, and in a few blinks of an eye, the wood was also on fire. More importantly, there was only a little bit of water in the teapot. It was not enough to put out the fire. "We're done for." Qin Feiyong's face twitched. He had just arrived at the Martial King Hall, yet he had already burned down the meeting hall. Elder Wan and the beautiful woman would definitely go crazy from anger. The fire was getting more and more terrifying. He hurriedly ran out of the main hall and shouted, "There's a fire, quickly come and put out the fire." What? How did it catch fire? When the nearby disciples heard the roar, they immediately ran over. What happened? At this time, a burly man walked over with large strides. When he saw the hall that had turned into a sea of fire, his eyes immediately widened. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly, pretended to be confused and said, "Yeah, what's going on?" The burly man was startled and asked, "Haven't you been here the whole time?" Qin Feiyang nodded. "Yes, but I really don't know what's going on, but it suddenly caught fire." "Is that so?" The burly man looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyang felt a little uncomfortable and quickly changed the topic. "Did Elder One call you here?" The burly man said, "Yes, Elder One asked me to protect you. He also specially instructed me to not leave you by even a single step." Qin Feiyang said, "In other words, you are the 9-star war king?" The burly man nodded. Qin Feiyang said, "Let's go, bring me to the treasure pavilion first." "Shouldn't we put out the fire first?" The burly man said. Qin Feiyang looked to both sides, and dozens of disciples were running over quickly. He said, "I have urgent matters to attend to. They will put out the fire, don't worry, let's go." Then he hurriedly slipped away. "Hurry up and put out the fire." The burly man glanced at Qin Feiyang, and then at the hall, and said to the disciples who were running over, and then chased after Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang ran hundreds of meters in one breath. The burly man was puzzled. "What's the matter? Why are you in such a hurry?" Before Qin Feiyang could answer, an angry roar came from the conference hall. "Zhang Haoyan, you are a jinx." It was Elder Wan's voice. "Jinx?" The burly man was stunned, and seemed to understand a little. He looked at Qin Feiyang strangely and said, "You didn't set the fire, did you?" Qin Feiyang's face turned serious, and he said unhappily, "How could I do such a thing?" "Then why did Elder Wan scold you?" The burly man was puzzled. "Maybe I'm an eyesore, don't talk nonsense. Quickly take me to the treasure pavilion," Qin Feiyang urged. "The fire in the conference hall must have something to do with this kid." The burly man muttered, and then grabbed Qin Feiyang, and rushed to the west side of the city. Even with the speed of a 9-star battle king, it still took them half an hour to reach the treasure pavilion. "It's Zhang Haoyan. He actually dares to come out alone." "No, the one beside him is the Martial Imperial Hall's managing elder. I remember his name is Shizheng, a 9-star battle king. He actually has a 9-star battle king protecting him. The Martial Imperial Hall really thinks highly of him." As soon as Qin Feiyang entered the treasure pavilion, the people inside whispered to each other. However, Qin Feiyang ignored them all. A staff member went up to him and asked, "Young Master Zhang, what do you want to buy?" Qin Feiyang said, "Take me to the auction house." Shizheng added, "I want a VIP room." "Okay, please follow me." The staff member turned around and led the two of them straight to the second floor. Arriving at the door of a VIP room, Qin Feiyang was about to enter. "Wait." Shizheng reached out to stop him and said in a low voice, "I'll go in and take a look first." Before Qin Feiyang could react, he pushed the door open and entered. After carefully inspecting the VIP room, he led Qin Feiyang in. The staff member said, "Young Master Zhang, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. After the staff member left, Qin Feiyang glanced at the VIP room. The decoration was not luxurious, but it was not ordinary either. 2 armchairs were neatly placed in the center, and it was obvious that they had been carefully carved. In front of the chairs there was a transparent floor-to-ceiling window, and he could clearly see the situation outside. He walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and looked down. Below was the auction house. It was very big, enough to accommodate thousands of people, and now there were about 300 to 400 people. There was a high platform in the center, and a white-haired old man was standing on the platform, presiding over the auction. The item being auctioned now was a dagger, and many people were bidding. Qin Feiyang looked carefully for a while and lost interest. The quality of the dagger was not bad, but compared to Chang Shui it was worlds apart. He turned around and sat on the chair, looking at Shizheng who was standing beside him. Shi Zheng scanned the auction house, his face full of vigilance. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "Elder, relax. Even if someone wants to deal with me, it won't be so fast." "Don't be careless." Shi Zheng shook his head. "This person is quite dutiful." Qin Feiyang muttered to himself. The auction was in full swing. One item after another was constantly being auctioned, but none of them were what Qin Feiyang wanted. Just as he lost patience and was about to get up and leave, the white-haired old man on the high platform took out an exquisite jade box and said with a smile, "The next item to be auctioned is very precious. Everyone, open your eyes and look carefully." "Precious?" Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He returned to his seat and fixed his eyes on it. The old man in white opened the jade box and took out a medicinal herb. The medicinal herb was as thick as a baby's arm and as long as a chopstick. It was fiery red as if it was condensed by flames, and its shape was almost exactly the same as a ginseng. Fire ginseng. Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled, and he immediately became spirited. In fact, he came to the treasure pavilion to see if there was a pill furnace, but he did not expect to encounter a fire ginseng. The appearance of the fire ginseng caused the entire auction house to boil. The white-haired old man said with a smile, "I don't need to introduce this treasure. The starting price is 300 gold coins, and there is no upper limit. Begin." 400. 500. 1,000. 2,000. The price soared up with a whoosh. 10 breaths later, the price of the fire ginseng had risen to 5,000. This price was already too much for many people to bear, and they could only watch as others increased the price. After a while, the price soared to 20,000, and only a few people were still competing. "I Shuiyang am taking this fire ginseng." 30,000. An extremely arrogant voice came from one of the VIP rooms. As if they were afraid of this person, no one bid anymore. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and asked, "Elder Shi, who is Shuiyang?" Shi Zheng said, "He is a core disciple of the Danwang Hall. His talent in alchemy is ranked in the top 10 among all the disciples, and his future is limitless. Moreover, he has a very good relationship with the first prince of the royal family, so many people will be respectful when they meet him." Danwang Hall. A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyang's eyes as he said indifferently, "I bid 40,000. This voice sounds like Zhang Haoyan's? That guy is a lawless person. Others are afraid of Shuiyang, but he definitely isn't. In addition, he has a deep grudge with the Danwang Hall, so he will definitely fight with Shuiyang to the end. This is going to be a good show." After hearing Qin Feiyang's voice, the others crossed their arms and looked at the two VIP rooms playfully. There was a moment of silence. Shuiyang's voice came, "Zhang Haoyan, you better do your best." 50,000. There was a threatening tone in his voice. Qin Feiyang sneered. "Who do you think you are?" 100,000. Raising the price by 50,000 in one go, this guy is really rich. Everyone was dumbfounded. Shuiyang was so angry that he laughed. "Good, very good. I will play with you today. I want to see how many gold coins you have on you." 200,000. Chapter 133. It's not much, but it's enough to trample on you. 300,000. Qin Feiyang said in disdain. "Trample on me? Do you have the ability to do so?" 400,000. Shuiyang shouted angrily. Shi Zheng was shocked and hurriedly said, "Zhang Haoyan, 400,000 is far more than the value of the fire ginseng. You can't act on impulse and be a fool." "Don't worry, I'm very calm now. I haven't lost my mind." Qin Feiyang waved his hand at Shi Zheng and sneered, "Shuiyang, right? I'm not even afraid of Jia He, so why would I not be afraid of a little tramp like you?" 500,000. Shuiyang flew into a rage and roared, "You dare to call me a little tramp? Today I'll fight you to the death." 600,000. Qin Feiyang said. 700,000. Shuiyang said. 800,000. Qin Feiyang said. 900,000. Shuiyang said, 1 million. A stalk of fire ginseng was sold for a sky-high price of 1 million. The two of them were too crazy. Even if they were rich, they couldn't squander money like this, right? The most excited one was the white-haired old man on the stage. Although the fire ginseng was rare, it was usually sold for between 100,000 and 200,000. 1 million, and this was the first time in history. Shi Zheng was also dumbfounded. He looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "My young master Jiang, you really can't continue. If you really need the fire ginseng, I'll talk to Elder Wan and ask him to sell it to you at the market price." "Is he willing to?" Qin Feiyong said in disdain. "This?" Shi Zheng hesitated. The fire ginseng wasn't a cabbage that could be found everywhere. Even the Martial Imperial Hall only had a few stalks. "Continue, why? Are you done with your temper?" Shui Yang's arrogant laughter came from the VIP room opposite. Qin Feiyong said indifferently, "I'd like to see how big your temper is. 1,100,000. He's still increasing the price." Everyone went crazy. 1,200,000. Shui Yang said without hesitation. Qin Feiyong's lips curled up slightly and said in a mocking tone, "Since you want it so much, I'll be generous for once and let you have it." Everyone was stunned. They all thought that Qin Feiyong would continue to raise the price, but he actually gave up. "Haha," Shui Yang laughed loudly and said, "Don't pretend if you don't have the ability." Qin Feiyong said playfully, "You still haven't reacted? Is your brain filled with shit? Would I tell you that I don't have any gold coins?" "What? No gold coins?" Hearing this, everyone was stunned, their faces twitching. "If you don't have any gold coins, how can you increase it by hundreds of thousands? What if Shui Yang doesn't follow you? How are you going to settle the bill?" This guy was too much of a bastard. That brat Shui Yang was too stupid. Not only did he not have the slightest bit of self-awareness, he was even complacent, thinking that he was so great. In reality, he was being taken for a fool. There was no sound coming from the VIP room. Shui Yang was infuriated. Qin Feiyong praised, "You actually used 2 million to buy a fire ginseng. You're really generous. I admire you from the bottom of my heart. Why don't we become friends?" These words. This was undoubtedly adding fuel to the fire. "I'm going to kill you," Shui Yang roared, bristling with anger. "This is the treasure pavilion. Who dares to act rashly?" The white-haired old man on the stage shouted. Qin Feiyong said, "Yes, this is the treasure pavilion. Do you think this is the Danwang Hall, where you can do whatever you want?" Shui Yang suppressed the anger in his heart and gritted his teeth. "Jiang Haoyan, we've formed a grudge. Let's see how long you can be arrogant." Qin Feiyong said lightly, "It's not that I'm arrogant, it's that you're too stupid. I don't understand why the Danwang Hall would let a pig like you out to embarrass themselves." Crack. In the VIP room opposite, the sound of a chair breaking could be heard immediately. Cough, cough. The old man in white on the stage coughed and held back his laughter. He said solemnly, "I now announce that the final winner of the fire ginseng is Shui Yang. Everyone, please give him a warm round of applause." Clap. A loud round of applause suddenly sounded. However, in Shui Yang's ears this was a great irony. He felt that everyone was laughing at him and treating him as an idiot. The sound of the slaps was like a slap to his face. It made him so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. Qin Feiyong sneered. With such a low IQ, he wanted to fight with him. He was really looking for trouble. Next, the old man in white took out another auction item. The auction continued. Qin Feiyong didn't look at it anymore. He got up and walked out of the VIP room. Shi Zheng hurriedly followed and asked, "Where are you going now?" Qin Feiyong said, "I want to see the manager of the treasure pavilion." Shi Zheng said, "The manager of the treasure pavilion is the white-haired old man on the stage. His surname is Li. Everyone calls him Manager Li. Just wait here. I'll arrange it for you." "Thank you." Qin Feiyong smiled. Shi Zheng nodded and quickly left. Qin Feiyong returned to the VIP room. Not long later, a woman in red walked into the auction house. She whispered a few words into the white-haired old man's ear. The white-haired old man glanced at the VIP room where Qin Feiyong was. After saying a few words to the woman in red, he left the auction house in large strides. Soon, a series of footsteps could be heard. Shi Zheng and the white-haired old man entered the VIP room one after another. Qin Feiyong got up and greeted him. "Greetings, Manager Li." The white-haired old man waved his hand. "Don't be polite, don't be polite. I should be the one thanking you. After all, it was you who made my treasure pavilion earn a lot." Qin Feiyong smiled. "I'm proud and you're the one who benefits." It's a win-win situation. Yes, yes, yes. The white-haired old man nodded and asked with a smile, little brother, why did you call me here? Qin Feiyong said, I want to ask, does the treasure pavilion have a pill furnace? Pill furnace? The white-haired old man was stunned for a moment before coming to a realization. He smiled and said, there must be a pill furnace, and I can make the decision to give you a good one. However, there is a condition. Qin Feiyong said, tell me about it. The white-haired old man said, my treasure pavilion will provide the herbs. You help me refine 500 top-grade healing pills and 500 top-grade bone replenishing pills. Shizheng frowned. Wasn't this clearly stealing his business? Qin Feiyong's eyes narrowed slightly as he smiled. The mind of a businessman is indeed different. However, I have to see first if the pill furnace you gave me is worth 1,000 peak-grade medicinal pills. The white-haired old man smiled. Sure, I'll go get it now. Qin Feiyong hurriedly said, wait a minute, there's one more thing. I wonder if the treasure pavilion has any fire ginseng. I need 3. This. The white-haired old man hesitated. Qin Feiyong said, I'm not asking for it for free. I'll buy it from you at the usual auction price. The white-haired old man waved his hand. You've misunderstood, that's not what I meant. I'm just wondering if you know how to refine the scarlet fire-colored glass pellets? Qin Feiyong nodded. The white-haired old man's eyes lit up and he smiled. How about this? I won't ask for the healing pills and bone replenishing pills. If you refine 10 scarlet fire-colored glass pellets for us, not only will I give you the pill furnace, but I'll also give you 3 fire ginseng. What do you think? 10. Qin Feiyong was shocked. The precious treasure pavilion was indeed worthy of being the largest trading place in the Great Qin Empire. Since he couldn't get anything from the Martial King Hall, he should at least get something from the treasure pavilion. He shook his head. This isn't a good deal. Apart from the pill furnace and fire ginseng, I also want 3 scarlet fire-colored glass pellets as payment. 3. The white-haired old man's face twitched as he said in disdain, little brother, you should come to the treasure pavilion because you're too cunning. Shizheng couldn't help but laugh. This? Qin Feiyong was a little embarrassed as he said again, I'm only refining peak-grade pellets. So what? Isn't the effect the same? I don't believe that I can break through 2 stages in one go. Forget it. I'm not going to argue with you anymore. Let's stick to our agreement. 500 healing pills and 500 bone replenishing pills, and I'll give you the pill furnace. As for the 3 fire ginseng, how about 150,000 gold each? The white-haired old man said. Qin Feiyong said helplessly, sure, but I only have 200,000 gold right now. Are you trying to get something for nothing? The white-haired old man was helpless. Qin Feiyong felt even more embarrassed. He couldn't wait to find a hole to hide in. Fine, give it to me when you have money. You're an alchemist anyway, I'm not afraid that you can't pay me back. The white-haired old man sighed as he turned and walked out of the VIP room. Qin Feiyong turned his head to look at Shizheng and said, tell me honestly, is my reward really that high? This, indeed. Shizheng stammered as if he found it hard to speak. Forget it, don't say it. Qin Feiyong returned to the chair weakly. He felt very hurt. It seemed that he had to lower the standard. After a while, his eyes flashed coldly as he asked, Elder Shi, what's Shui Yang's cultivation? Shizheng thought for a while and said, it's said that he's a 3-star martial ancestor. So strong? Qin Feiyong frowned. This time, the white-haired old man pushed the door open and entered. Qin Feiyong stood up to welcome him. The white-haired old man waved his hand and 3 fire ginseng and a pill furnace appeared on the ground. Qin Feiyong squatted on the ground and looked carefully. After confirming that it was the fire ginseng, he looked at the pill furnace. The pill furnace was as big as a face and was completely black. There were some unknown patterns engraved on it. From the surface, the quality was indeed not bad. It was even better than the pill furnace that Luo Xiong used. But it was more than 1,000 supreme-grade pills. He stood up and looked at the white-haired old man. He shook his head and said, Managerly, you really know how to do business. For this pill furnace, I can at most give you 200 supreme-grade pills. So little? Managerly raised his eyebrows. Qin Feiyong said unhappily, you really think that supreme-grade pills are made of mud? This is already a lot. If you agree, we'll make a deal. Otherwise, I'll leave immediately. Manager Lee frowned. As a businessman, the first thing to consider was whether or not he would lose money. No matter how bad this pill furnace was, it was still worth a few 100,000 gold coins. 200 supreme grade pills, was it worth this price? Everyone had heard of supreme grade pills, but there were very few people who had actually seen it. Therefore, it was difficult for him to make a decision. It seems that this trip was in vain. Elder Sure, let's go. I'll treat you to a few drinks. Chapter 134. Seeing that Qin Feiyang opened the door and was about to walk out. I'll bet. Steward Li gritted his teeth, turned to Qin Feiyang and nodded. 200 then. Deal. A businessman should be so straightforward. Qin Feiyang smiled, turned around, and put the furnace and fire ginseng into his Qinkuan bag. You can be proud. Steward Li rolled his eyes, took out a piece of paper from his arms, and handed it to Qin Feiyang. Sign it. What's this? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He took it and looked at it carefully. Suddenly his veins bulged. It was an IO. The content was, today, Zhang Haoyan bought 3 fire ginseng for a total of 450,000 yuan. Because he had no money to pay, he left an IO. Qin Feiyang looked up at Steward Li and said with a dark face, Is there a need to do this? Steward Li said, Of course. What if you go back on your words? I don't know you very well. You win. Qin Feiyang glared at him, bit his finger, and directly pressed a fingerprint. Steward Li took the IOU, looked at the fingerprint and suddenly smiled. What are you doing? I'm a core disciple of the Danwang Hall. Do I look like someone who will pay a bad debt? Suddenly, there was a roar from outside. It was Shui Yang. Steward Li raised his eyebrows and said to Qin Feiyang, I'll go out and take a look. Qin Feiyang also followed curiously. Out of the door, turned right, walked a dozen meters, and arrived at the reception on the second floor. At this moment, Shui Yang was in a rage. The 4 tall and sturdy men surrounded him in the middle. Their expressions were somewhat awkward. There was also a woman in white, about 25 or 26, explaining something to Shui Yang. Zhang Haoyan. When Shui Yang noticed Qin Feiyang walking over, his face immediately darkened. No need to thank me. Qin Feiyang joked. This person was not bad-looking. He was 1.8 meters tall and handsome, but his IQ was not good. Shui Yang clenched his fists as a sharp light flickered in his eyes. He gritted his teeth and said, Just you wait. I'll let you know what pain feels like. Then I'll wait. Don't disappoint me. Qin Feiyang didn't take it to heart at all. There were many people who threatened him, but who could really do it? He was not even afraid of a battle emperor, let alone a 3-star martial ancestor. Manager Li walked forward and glanced at the 4 guards. He frowned and asked, What are you doing? Manager, you're finally here. As though she had seen her savior, the woman in white hurriedly walked to Manager Li's side and explained, Shui Yang doesn't have the money to pay, so we don't dare to let him leave. No money? Manager Li furrowed his brows and waved his aged hand, indicating for the 4 guards to step back. Subsequently, he walked in front of Shui Yang and said in a deep voice, You are very clear about the rules of the treasure pavilion. You have already bought the fire ginseng. If you dare to renege on your debt, don't blame me for being ruthless. Shui Yang's gaze trembled as he hurriedly said, I'm not trying to renege on my debt. It's because I really don't have that much money. Manager Li, can you give me some time? Manager Li said angrily, You don't have the money and you're still fighting? Shui Yang pointed at Qin Feiyang and said, He doesn't have the money, but isn't he still fighting? Manager Li said, He's smarter than you. Shui Yang's eyes immediately turned red as he clenched his fists tightly. Manager Li waved his hand and said, All right, I'll give you 1 day. At this time tomorrow, if you can't hand over 1,200,000, I'll go to the Danwang Hall and ask Old Man He for it. Thank you, Manager Li. Shui Yang cupped his hands and said, Go write an IOU and let him put his fingerprint on it. Manager Li instructed the white-clothed woman beside him, Go and get someone to prepare 100 sets of healing pills and 100 sets of bone-replenishing pills. Send them to me immediately. Manager Li ordered another guard. Then, he brought Qin Feiyang and Shizhong into the lounge at the side. And throughout the whole process, Shuiyang stared at Qin Feiyang, murderous intent lurking in his eyes. After closing the door, Manager Li walked to the tea table and said, "Please take a seat." Qin Feiyang did not stand on ceremony and sat down on the chair. He looked around the lounge and asked, "Manager Li, where's the chief pavilion master?" Manager Li was making tea. When he heard this, he raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyang, puzzled. "Why are you asking about him?" Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, "I'm just curious." Manager Li smiled and said, "The chief pavilion master has been in Xingyue City for this period of time." Qin Feiyang said, "For his daughter? How do you know?" Manager Li was surprised. "I have some friendship with his daughter." Qin Feiyang smiled. Manager Li suddenly understood and did not say anything. He lowered his head and continued to make tea. A short while later, the guard took a Qiankuan bag and entered the lounge. Manager Li said, "Give it to Jiang Haotian." The guard handed it to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang grabbed it and stood up saying, "Since the matter is settled, I won't disturb you anymore. Goodbye." Manager Li nodded and smiled. "Send the pills over as soon as possible. Haven't you heard that being impatient won't let you eat hot tofu?" Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, turned around and quickly left the treasure pavilion with Shizheng. Shizheng asked, "Where are we going now?" After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyang said, "Let's find a restaurant to stay in first." Shizheng was shocked and hurriedly said, "No, it's too dangerous to stay in a restaurant. Let's go back to the Martial Imperial Hall, it's safer." Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice, "Elder One asked you to protect me, not to express your opinion. You have to listen to me now." Shizheng frowned. Qin Feiyang sighed inwardly. This person was doing his job diligently, so he should be a bit more polite. He smiled and said, "Elder Shi, I know you're doing this for my sake, but I have my own plans. Can you not interfere?" "All right." Shizheng nodded. How could he not agree to it when it had already come to this point? Flying Phoenix Restaurant. This was the most luxurious restaurant in the West District. It had a total of 5 floors and was decorated with carved beams and painted pillars. In the center of the roof there was a huge stone carving. It was a flaming phoenix, looking down at everyone with a proud expression. It was lifelike. This was the Flying Phoenix Restaurant's totem. Qin Feiyang raised his head and took a glance. Then he walked into the main hall of the restaurant. He immediately attracted the attention of everyone. Shizheng glanced at the surrounding diners and frowned slightly. He said in a low voice, "Aren't we too conspicuous by coming here?" Qin Feiyang said, "I want everyone in Swallow City to know that I'm here." "Why is that?" Shizheng was puzzled. Qin Feiyang said, "Because I'm waiting for someone." "Waiting for someone?" Shizheng was even more puzzled. A waiter greeted them with a flattering smile. "Young Master Jiang, Elder Shi, are you here to stay or have a meal?" Qin Feiyang said, "Stay in the inn. Arrange a slightly more secluded room for me." "No problem, please follow me." The waiter led them to a corner on the 5th floor. There was a door there. The waiter pushed the door open and said, "Young Master Jiang, this is the quietest room in our Flying Phoenix restaurant. Do you like it?" Qin Feiyang walked in. The room wasn't big, but it had a dining room, a tea room, and a bedroom. It was also very clean. Qin Feiyang nodded. "Not bad, you can leave first." The waiter said, "All right. Let me know if you need anything." After the waiter left, Shizheng closed the door and looked around the room vigilantly. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Elder Shi, I'm going to refine pills. If you're bored, you can go down and drink some wine. While you're at it, spread the room number of my room." Shizheng was stunned. Qin Feiyang shook his head. "I don't think that's necessary. That waiter will probably spread the news." Shizheng looked at him and asked, "There's no alchemy room here. Where are you going to refine pills?" "As long as there's alchemy fire, there's an alchemy room." Qin Feiyang smiled and entered the castle. In any case, everyone already knew that he had a hidden treasure, so there was no need for him to hide anymore. "What's this kid's background?" Shizheng looked around the room, his heart full of disbelief. Wolf King was lying on the floor of the castle, listless, bored, and unmotivated. Seeing Qin Feiyang appear, it immediately got up and said angrily, "Little Qin Zi, when will you let me out to get some fresh air? If this goes on, I'll get sick from holding it in." Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and said, "I wish I could be as carefree as you. cultivating every day, but you're not satisfied. You really don't know how to be content. Get lost, don't talk to me about these useless things. I want to go out, go out, go out. Wolf King roared in exasperation. Qin Feiyong said helplessly, okay, when I'm done with my business, I'll find a chance to send you out of the city. Then you can do whatever you want. That's more like it. Wolf King smiled, changing his attitude faster than flipping a book. Step aside, I have to prepare to make elixirs. Qin Feiyong said, walked to the altar where the iron book was placed, took out the elixir furnace, and put it next to the iron book. Wolf King was stunned and asked, what do you mean you're going to make elixirs here? Aren't you afraid that the iron book will be burned? I don't think so. Qin Feiyong shook his head and frowned slightly. For safety's sake, he finally took out the chong shui and cut the iron box hard. As a result, there was not even a trace of it. He dripped blood to open the iron box and cut the iron book, but there was also no trace of it. TSK. It's so hard. Wolf King came up, his eyes shining and drooling, and asked, do you think it's a divine object? Qin Feiyong said angrily, you're drooling on the ground. Wolf King licked his lips and said with a sinister smile, why don't we use this box to make an armor for you? In your dreams. Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes. As long as he saw something of value, the white-eyed wolf would want to take it for himself. He didn't know how to describe his character. However, even if the iron box and the iron book were really divine objects, they could only look at them, because he couldn't even move the iron box, let alone use it to make armor. Phew. After letting out a long breath, Qin Feiyong took out the Chengkuan bag that Manager Li gave him, took out a set of medicinal ingredients for the heal pill, and prepared to start refining. To be honest, he was very nervous now. Chapter 135. Don't disturb me when I'm refining pills. Qin Feiyong reminded Wolf King and waved his hand. The nether devil flame flew through the air and floated below the pill furnace. With a thought, the flame rose. The temperature in the castle soared. Wolf King quickly retreated to the back corner. His pupils constricted as he was quite afraid of the nether devil flame. In an instant, the top of the pill furnace was burned red with heat waves. Using one's own pill fire to refine pills and using someone else's pill fire to refine pills were two completely different things. For example, in the pill refining room, Qin Feiyong had to use his mental power to get used to the high temperature of the pill fire and gradually merge with the pill fire before he could control the pill fire. But now, with the nether devil flame, he only needed a thought. This way he could save a lot of time. Buzz! A wave of mental power rushed out from the top of his head, rolled up a medicinal herb and slowly put it into the pill furnace. However, just as it was put into the pill furnace, with a burst of black smoke, the medicinal herb turned into ashes on the spot. What's going on? Qin Feiyong frowned. He had refined the healing pill more than 100 times. His control of the pill fire was not superb, but it was definitely not wrong. He even remembered clearly that the first medicinal herb of the healing pill needed to be at 30%. Now, he had indeed controlled it at 30%. But how did the medicinal herb turn into ashes? He suspiciously put his hand into the pill furnace and retracted it like lightning. He said in surprise, why is the temperature inside the pill furnace so high? After thinking for a while, he suddenly realized. It must be because the level of the two pill fires was different. Without a doubt, the level of the nether devil flame was definitely higher than the pill fire of the pill hall. There was naturally a difference in temperature between the two. So he had to adjust the flame again. He figured this out. Qin Feiyong had a thought and controlled the pill fire at 20%. The medicinal herb turned into ashes again. Controlling it at 10%, the medicinal herb still turned into ashes in the end. Not even 10%? Qin Feiyong was stunned. The level of the nether devil flame was so high that it was beyond his expectations. Then, he controlled the flame at 5%. This time he finally succeeded in refining the spiritual liquid. The first medicinal ingredient originally required 30% of the fire, but now it only requires 5%. The second medicinal ingredient originally required 40% maturity. Is it only 10% now? After a series of experiments, this was indeed the case. Next, He let go of his courage and began to refine the spirit liquid. The third medicinal ingredient, 10% of the fire. The fourth ingredient, 15% maturity. Very soon, 8 drops of spirit liquid were extracted. The last 2 steps were to fuse the 8 types of spirit liquids, and then add the solidifying liquid to form the pill. He did it all in one go without any delay. After the pills were refined, Qin Feiyong could not wait to grab it. He opened his eyes wide and looked at it carefully. Immediately, his body shook and a bright light burst out from his eyes. On the surface of the recovery pill, there was a circle of pill inscriptions. Not only were they clear and distinct, they were even emitting wisps of light. It felt as if a halo had been added to the pill. This was a true top-grade medicinal pill. Qin Feiyong was extremely excited. Alchemy fire was indeed the key to affecting the quality of the pill. Without the Nether Devil fire, he would definitely not be able to refine such a perfect top-grade pill. Right now, he was fully deserving of the title of a top-grade alchemist. I can't be complacent. The top-grade pill is not the end. I have to continue working hard. He muttered to himself. After calming down, he began to refine the bone-replenishing pill. Time flew. 2 days later, late at night, a round figure sneakily climbed in through the window. It was Fatso. When he did not see Qin Feiyong in the room, he whispered, "Zhang Laoda, Fat Lord is here. Come out quickly." Whoosh! Qin Feiyong immediately appeared out of thin air and said with a smile, "I've been waiting for you for a long time." Waiting for me? Fatso was stunned. How would I dare to go to the Danwang Hall to look for you now? Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly. He was afraid that he would be captured alive before entering the Danwang Hall. Therefore, he lived in such a conspicuous place and let everyone in the city know that he was here. If Fatso had something to do with him, he would naturally come here. Fatso pondered carefully and understood Qin Feiyong's motive. He sighed, "This is too troublesome. We have to get a few image crystals as soon as possible." Qin Feiyong said, "Are you kidding? The image crystals are so expensive. Are you going to pay for it?" Fatso laughed. "Even if you sell Fat Lord, you won't be able to get so many gold coins. So Zhang Laoda, you have to think of a way to get these image crystals." Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes. He glanced around the room and asked doubtfully, "Where's Shi Zheng? He's drinking alone downstairs." Fatso pointed downstairs. Qin Feiyong said, "He didn't see it. It's best. How is it? Did you get the herbs?" He was waiting for Fatso here because he was waiting for the herbs. Is there anything that Fat Lord can't do? Fatso glared at him unhappily. He took out a Qingquan bag and threw it to Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong grabbed the Qingquan bag with one hand and Fatso with the other. The next moment, they appeared in the castle. "Hi, Brother Wolf." Upon seeing the Wolf King, Fatty immediately extended his hand to greet him warmly. "Your meat should be very fragrant." Brother Wolf hasn't eaten meat for a few months. Wolf King opened his bloody mouth and stared at him with evil intentions. Before it could finish, Fatso shivered and hid behind Qin Feiyong like a frightened piglet. Useless. Wolf King looked at him with disdain, then lowered his head and continued to sleep. Qin Feiyong took out the medicinal herbs and counted them one by one. No more, no less, just 3 of each kind. Next, as he sorted out the medicinal herbs, he said, "Fatso, let me ask you a question." Fatso said, "Ask away." Qin Feiyong said, "Do you already know my true identity?" Fatso chuckled. "Then tell Fat Lord, who is your true identity?" Qin Feiyong said indifferently, "You're not even the least bit surprised. Seems like it's as I expected." "Fatso, since you know that I'm Qin Feiyong, why are you still so close to me?" "What? You're Qin Feiyong?" The fatty looked at him in shock and disbelief, his eyes and mouth wide open. Qin Feiyong raised his head and looked at Fatso and said, "If you continue to pretend, I'll let the white-eyed wolf eat you." Oh, Wolf King was also very cooperative, baring his teeth and growling repeatedly. Fatso shrunk his neck and hurriedly said, Yes, 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 Fat Lord indeed knew that you were Qin Feiyong a long time ago. The reason why he is still so close to you is because he guessed that your background is not small. He wants to take advantage of you and take advantage of you. This shouldn't be a big deal, right?" Qin Feiyong shook his head. That's nothing, you're right, my background is not small. Fatso asked curiously. Then what is your background? Qin Feiyong said. If I tell you now, I'll kill you later. Do you still want to know? Then forget it. Fatso quickly waved his hand. Prepare the bamboo slip. I'll give you 2 perfect martial skills later. Don't disturb me now. After Qin Feiyong finished speaking, he put away the pills, stood up and walked to the front of the pill furnace. He held his breath and prepared to refine the scarlet-colored glass pill. The scarlet-colored glass pill was not a heal pill or a bone-continuing pill. The medicinal ingredients for the heal pill and the bone-continuing pill were very common and cheap. They could be bought again if they were scrapped. However, the medicinal ingredients for the scarlet-colored glass pill were all very rare. If they were accidentally scrapped, they would have to spend a lot of effort to find them. Especially the leaves of the fire ginseng and the scarlet-colored glass tree. There must not be any accidents. Moreover, this was also his first time refining the scarlet-colored glass pill, so in his heart, he was more or less nervous. At this moment Fatso's heart was completely filled with ecstasy. Zhang Lao, oh no, it was Boss Qin. He actually wanted to give him a perfect martial skill. Wasn't this surprise a little too fast? He was a little dizzy now. Felt like a dream. You are as useless as Ling Yunfei. Isn't it just 2 perfect martial skills? Is there a need to be so excited? Wolf King's contemptuous words suddenly sounded in Fatso's mind. Fatso suddenly glared and turned his head to Wolf King, ready to shout. But suddenly he remembered that Qin Feiyong was refining pills. The words that were about to come out of his mouth were swallowed back. He proudly laughed in a low voice. Fat Lord is willing, what can you do? TSK. Wolf King's eyes were full of disdain and he continued to close his eyes and nap. At the same time, Qin Feiyong also moved. Full concentration. There were a total of 9 kinds of medicinal ingredients for the scarlet-colored glass pill. When refining the spiritual liquid of these 9 medicinal ingredients, he would first control the heat to the minimum, and then gradually increase it. I didn't expect Boss Qin to really have the leaves of the scarlet-colored glass tree. Fatso secretly muttered and also calmed down, carefully observing the process of Qin Feiyong refining pills. At this moment, in the ancient castle there was a dead silence without the slightest noise. Hundreds of breaths passed. Except for the leaves of the scarlet-colored glass tree and the fire ginseng, the spiritual liquid of the other 7 medicinal ingredients had been refined, emitting a rich medicinal fragrance. And now he was even more careful. Concentrating his mental force, he did not dare to be distracted. Another 100 breaths passed. The spiritual liquid of the fire ginseng was also refined. He began to refine the leaves of the scarlet-colored glass tree again. After the leaves entered the pill furnace, he controlled the netherworld devil flame and increased the heat step by step. Suddenly, as if the heat was too strong, the leaves quickly withered. However, no spiritual liquid appeared. Qin Feiyong's face changed and hurriedly took out the leaves. Seeing that the leaves were not burned, he breathed a sigh of relief. After the temperature of the pill furnace dropped, he carefully put the leaves in again. This time, his control of the alchemy fire was more precise than before, and the heat was almost increasing bit by bit. Dozens of breaths later, the spiritual liquid was finally refined without any danger. But now was not the time to relax. There were still the last 2 steps, there must be no mistakes. Qin Feiyong looked at the 9 drops of spiritual liquid in the pill furnace, trying to relax his body and mind. Because at this time, the more nervous he was, the easier it was to make mistakes. After a long while, he began to fuse the 9 drops of spiritual liquid. Every movement was very gentle. This was a test of a person's control and patience. The slightest mistake would cause the whole thing to collapse. Gradually, the 9 drops of spiritual liquid blended together and were indistinguishable from each other, blooming with rays of light, as if a treasure was about to be born. The last step. Qin Feiyong controlled his mental force, rolled up a drop of solidifying liquid, and carefully integrated it into the spiritual liquid. Soon, the scarlet-colored glass pill was formed. The rays of light converged, revealing a pill the size of a pellet. It was fiery red all over, as if there were wisps of small flames on the surface. An intoxicating medicinal fragrance like a tide instantly swept every inch of the ancient castle. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and the scarlet-colored glass pill flew out of the pill furnace and caught it in his palm. Chapter 136. At once, Wolf King and Fatso ran over and surrounded Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang quivered, stared at Wolf King vigilantly, and shouted, "White-eyed wolf, I warn you, you have already taken one, and it will be a waste if you take another one. Don't snatch it again." Wolf King said disdainfully, "Brother Wolf knows you don't need to remind me. Brother Wolf just wants to see what the best red glass pill looks like. You'd better not snatch it, otherwise don't blame me for risking my life with you." Qin Feiyang still didn't trust Wolf King. His eyes were firmly fixed on it, and he slowly spread out his hands. The red fire-colored glass pill appeared. Looking at the dazzling pill pattern, Fatso's saliva flowed out. He looked at Qin Feiyang with shifty eyes. Seeing Qin Feiyang, he only guarded against Wolf King. He stretched out his claws like lightning, grabbed the pill, and threw it into his mouth before Qin Feiyang could react. Qin Feiyang was stunned. "Waha, serves you right." Wolf King was also stunned, and then he laughed gloatingly, tears coming out of his eyes. "Damn Fatso, I'm going to strangle you." Qin Feiyang was furious. He suddenly turned around, stretched out his hands, and tightly grabbed Fatso's neck. The last time he got a red glass pill, it was snatched by Wolf King. Now he had painstakingly refined one, but it was snatched by Fatso. This was intolerable. Qin Feiyang roared, "Bastard, spit it out for me." Woo-woo. Fatso struggled desperately, his hands waving wildly, and his face had turned pale. Seeing this, Wolf King hurriedly said, "Little Qinzi, if you don't let go, he will really die. Anyway, he's just a shameless person. So what if he dies?" Qin Feiyang's eyes glinted coldly. Wolf King was extremely anxious. Woo-woo. Fatso grabbed Qin Feiyang's hands with a pleading look in his eyes. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows slightly and finally released his hand. Bang! Fatso fell to the ground and greedily breathed in the fresh air. His face was also filled with fear. Just now, he truly felt that the god of death had descended upon him. If Qin Feiyang had let go a second later, he would have died. "Boss Qin, I have parents and children to take care of. I can't die. It's my fault. My hands are cheap. Hit me, scold me. You know what? I lost my parents when I was young. I was all alone and lived in despair every day. Boss Qin, it wasn't easy for me to get to where I am today. Do you have the heart to kill me? In order to help you steal the medicinal materials, I was almost discovered by the deacon elder. I risked my life to help you. Please be magnanimous and forgive me." After coming to his senses, Fatso immediately hugged Qin Feiyang's thigh, crying and complaining with snot and tears. Qin Feiyang's face twitched. "Damn Fatso, can you be more ridiculous?" Wolf King despised him. "I'm not exaggerating. I'm telling the truth," Fatso said angrily. "Then tell Brother Wolf you lost your parents when you were young, and you didn't get married. Where did the old one above and the young one below come from? Did they jump out of a stone?" Wolf King despised him. Fatso said this. Qin Feiyang shouted, "Okay, don't curse your parents. I'll let it go this time, but if there's a next time, I'll skin you alive." "Thank you, Boss Qin." Fatso shed tears of gratitude and got up to wipe away his tears. "Actually, I didn't curse my parents. They are really dead. When I was 12 years old, a fierce beast suddenly attacked the village. My parents were the only martial artists in the village. But that fierce beast was too strong. They paid the price with their lives to kill it. Since then, I have been an orphan. I relied on the help of the villagers to live to this day." Fatso said. The grief on his face could not be concealed. "So pitiful." Wolf King muttered. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "Okay, I forgive you. Thank you, boss." Fatso laughed. Boom! Before his voice died away, a powerful aura rushed out from his body. 5-star martial master. Qin Feiyang was surprised. Fat Lord's talent is not bad. In these years, he has also cultivated to 4-star martial master. However, without waiting for him to finish speaking, an even stronger aura rushed out from his body. 6-star martial master. He actually broke through 2 small realms in a row. Qin Feiyong and Wolf King were dumbfounded. How could this be? Fatso himself was also very surprised. He broke through from 4-star martial master to 6-star martial master in an instant. Was this a dream? I understand now. It's because the power of the supreme grade red fire glaze elixir that Fatso broke through continuously. Qin Feiyong was ecstatic. He did not expect that there would be such a good thing. If he took the supreme grade red fire glaze elixir, would he directly step into 8-star martial master? When he copied the 6th stroke of the Huan character formula, he would be a 9-star martial master. He was only 1 step away from martial grandmaster. Thinking about it made him excited. Oh my god. At that time, why did Brother Wolf snatch that red fire glaze elixir? Wolf King suddenly howled. At that time when he snatched the red fire glaze elixir, he was so proud that he even farted. But now, seeing the power of the supreme grade red fire glaze elixir, his intestines were green with regret. Why, God, Brother Wolf is so kind and innocent. How can you bear to treat Brother Wolf like this? Don't stop, Brother Wolf. Brother Wolf is going to hit the wall. Wolf King crashed into the stone wall. Suddenly, he slammed on the brakes and turned to look at Qin Feiyong and Fatso. Qin Feiyong crossed his arms in front of his chest, his eyes full of ridicule. Fatso also had a look of disdain. Wolf King said angrily, "You guys really don't stop me. Do you want Brother Wolf to die in front of you?" Qin Feiyong waved his hand and said, "Go ahead. For the sake of friends, I will collect your corpse, and I will also be free." Wolf King bared his teeth and roared, "Bastard, you want to be free? No way, Brother Wolf will pester you for the rest of your life, making you unable to eat, unable to sleep, and restless." Scoundrel! Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes. However, seeing the white-eyed wolf regretting so much that he wanted to hit the wall, he felt quite good in his heart. Suddenly, the corner of his mouth lifted, and he said playfully, "What do you think? If Elder Wan and Manager Li know the power of the supreme grade red fire glaze elixir, what kind of expression will they have?" Haha, Wolf King laughed and said, "It will definitely be like eating feces." Qin Feiyong sneered and said, 2 days ago I wanted to refine, but they didn't give me the medicinal materials. Now, even if they send the medicinal materials to me, it will depend on my mood. Waha! This is a good opportunity to extort. Hehe, not to mention them, once this news spreads, all the big shots in Yen City will think of ways to beg you. And the Danwang Hall, when the time comes, their expressions will definitely be very interesting. Wolf King and Fatso laughed sinisterly. Okay, you go and spread this news immediately. I want this night to be completely boiling. Qin Feiyong's eyes burst with light. No problem. Fatso patted his chest and promised. After sending Fatso out, Qin Feiyong calmed down and continued to refine the red fire glaze elixir. Fatso's efficiency was also extremely fast. Half an hour later, the news spread like wildfire in all the restaurants in the Western District. At first, everyone had a look of disbelief. How was this possible? But when they thought of the supreme grade red fire glaze elixir, it might really be possible. So, everyone rushed to the Flying Phoenix house to find out. Treasure Pavilion. Manager Li was already resting. Dong dong. Suddenly, a series of rapid knocks on the door woke him up from his sleep. He got up, looked up at the door and said angrily, "Who is it?" "Manager, something bad has happened." An anxious voice could be heard. Manager Li was shocked and hurriedly said, "What's the matter? Come in and tell me." A guard opened the door and ran in, saying, "Manager, there's a crazy rumor outside, saying that the supreme grade red fire glaze elixir refined by Zhang Haotian can help people break through 2 small realms." "That's utter nonsense." Manager Li snorted coldly. What a bunch of idiots to believe such a ridiculous thing. The guard said, "Manager, although it's a little unbelievable, we've never seen a supreme grade red fire glaze elixir. What if it's true?" Manager Li frowned, his old eyes flashing, and nodded, "You're right, this matter can't be groundless. Do you know where Zhang Haotian is now?" The guard said, "He has been in the Flying Phoenix house for the past 2 days and has never appeared." Manager Li asked, "Then who is the person who spread the news?" The guard said, "It's said to be a Fatso, but no one knows his name." "Alright, you go outside and watch. I'll make a trip to the Flying Phoenix house personally. If this news is true, then Zhang Haotian is a priceless treasure to our precious treasure pavilion." Manager Li grabbed the coat on the hanger and hurriedly walked out. At this moment, a large group of people rushed into the Flying Phoenix house. The waiter of the restaurant was confused. Shizheng, who was drinking alone, was also extremely surprised. Shizheng is there. Elder Shi, can you let us see Zhang Haotian? We have a lot of questions to ask him. As soon as they saw Shizheng, everyone crowded around him, all talking at once, asking questions non-stop. What's going on? Shizheng looked at them suspiciously, somewhat baffled. Elder Shi, you're hiding it. The supreme grade red fire glaze elixir refined by Zhang Haotian can raise one's cultivation by 2 small realms. Let us see him. The few people standing at the front pleaded. When Shizheng heard this, he suddenly stood up, his face full of disbelief. Wait, I'll go up and ask. After saying this, he leaped like an ape and landed on the corridor of the 5th floor with a few leaps. The crowd in the lobby immediately rushed to the 5th floor. Shizheng ran into the room and closed the door. There was a faint fragrance of tea in the room. Qin Feiyang was sitting in the tea room, leisurely drinking tea, looking incomparably comfortable. As for the other 2 supreme-grade red fire glaze elixirs, he had already refined them. After all, it had been an hour since then. Shizheng strode into the tea room and asked Qin Feiyang, "What's the news outside about?" It spread so quickly. Qin Feiyang was rather surprised. He had never doubted Fatso's ability to do things, but wasn't this efficiency too shocking? Chapter 137. Shizheng urged, "What the hell is going on? Tell me." "What news?" Qin Feiyang pretended to be confused. "It's the best red fire glass pill. It's said that the red fire glass pill you refined can break through 2 small realms. Is that true?" Shizheng looked at him nervously. "Is that true? Who's talking nonsense?" Qin Feiyang frowned and looked very angry. "No such thing," Shizheng asked, half doubtful and half believing. Qin Feiyang pursed his lips and smiled, saying, "Of course. There is. That's good." Shizheng breathed a sigh of relief. If it was true, it would be too incredible. But then, his body shook, and he stared at Qin Feiyang in surprise and asked, "What did you say? There is?" "Yes, is that strange?" Qin Feiyang took out a jade box and opened the lid. A fiery red elixir appeared. Shizheng looked down. When he saw the dazzling elixir pattern, his heart was full of shock. The best elixir pattern. He must have seen a lot of elixirs, but it was the first time he saw the best elixir. Bang! At this moment, the door was knocked open, and a white-haired old man walked in anxiously. It was Manager Li. As soon as he entered the tea room, he asked anxiously, "Zhang Haotian, is the news outside true?" Before he finished speaking, wisps of strong medicinal fragrance came to his nose. He looked down and his old eyes lit up. He immediately rushed to the tea table and stared at the elixir in the jade box. This was the best red fire glass pill. He reached out his hand excitedly and was about to touch the elixir. Qin Feiyang closed the lid of the box, put his big hand on the jade box, and joked, "The price is clearly marked, 100,000 gold coins per touch. Take out the gold coins first, 100,000 gold coins per touch?" Shizheng's face twitched. This kid really knew how to ask for a lion's share. Manager Li was stunned, and a trace of disdain climbed up on his old face. He got up and tidied his clothes, saying disdainfully, "Isn't it just the best elixir? What's the big deal?" Qin Feiyang said, "If that's the case, Elder Shi, please help me see the guests out." Shizheng turned to look at Manager Li and said with a smile, "Please." "Ugh." Steward Li was startled. Then he raged, "Brat, don't go too far. You're here in the middle of the night, disturbing my rest, and saying that I'm going overboard? Do you have any shame?" Qin Feiyang spoke in disdain. "Rest?" Manager Li was stunned and said angrily, "Drinking tea while resting? It's my pleasure. What can you do about it? I'm not going to waste my breath on you. If you want to know the power of the supreme grade crimson fire-colored glass pill, then sit down obediently. When everyone is here, the truth will naturally be revealed." Qin Feiyang said lightly. Manager Li frowned and looked inquiringly at Shizheng. Shizheng spread out his hands and shrugged, indicating that he didn't know either. Helpless, Manager Li could only sit on the chair and look at the jade box on the tea table. his brows tightly knitted together. Qin Feiyong said with a smile, Elder Shi, help me go out and tell everyone not to rush and wait patiently. Okay. Shi Zheng nodded and turned to leave the room. Qin Feiyong picked up the teapot and said with a smile, Manager Li, this tea is not bad. Do you want to have a cup? Manager Li said expressionlessly, I'm afraid that if I drink too much, I won't be able to sleep later. If you don't drink, you won't be able to sleep later. Qin Feiyong smiled playfully, holding the teacup and drinking by himself. Bastard! Manager Li cursed secretly. To him this was a torment. Greetings, Lord Lin Han. Greetings, Your Highness. About a few hundred breaths later, outside, there was a series of respectful greetings. Lin Han. Qin Feiyong's arm paused slightly, and a cold light flashed in the depths of his eyes. Shi Zheng raised his eyebrows and asked, Do you want to let them in? One represents the Lin family. The other represents the royal family. Of course. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. Shi Zheng walked over and opened the door. After a while, Lin Han and a young man in a golden robe entered the room one after another. Lin Han smiled and said, Little brother, we meet again. Qin Feiyong didn't get up to greet them. He nodded and said with a smile, Yes, Yin City is really small. Patriarch Lin, First Prince, please have a seat. After the two of them sat down, they looked at Steward Li and frowned. The First Prince's eyes flashed, and he turned to Qin Feiyong and said with a smile, I've heard of your name a long time ago, but I haven't had the chance to visit you. If you don't mind, let's have a few drinks later? Your Highness, I'm sorry, but I rarely drink wine. Tea is fine. Qin Feiyong smiled, poured 2 cups of tea, and handed them over. Haha, I didn't expect Brother Jiang to be a refined person. The First Prince smiled and took the teacup. He didn't look unhappy at all, but no one knew what he was thinking. Lin Han took a sip of the tea and put it on the table in front of him. He said in confusion, Little brother, the news outside. But before he could finish, Qin Feiyong smiled and said, Patriarch Lin, being impatient won't help you. Please wait patiently for a while. Okay. Lin Han nodded and smiled, but there was a flash of displeasure in his eyes. Shi Zheng looked at the scene in silence. He couldn't believe it. One had to know. Whether it was Manager Li, Lin Han, or the First Prince, they all represented powerful forces and held high positions. Any decision they made could change the situation in Yin City. But at this moment, in the face of these big shots, this young man wasn't nervous at all. He was calm and at ease. Even he couldn't compare to this kind of temperament. He couldn't understand how a young man under the age of 16 could do this. Greetings, Elder Wan. Greetings, Elder Ji. Soon, another wave of respectful greetings came from outside. Elder Ji? Qin Feiyong was stunned and confused. Why hadn't he heard of this person? Shi Zheng quickly went to greet them. Soon, Shi Zheng let 2 people into the room. It was Elder Wan and the beautiful woman. Seeing that Manager Li, Lin Han, and the First Prince were all there, the beautiful woman frowned and snorted. How lively! The First Prince got up and saluted. Greetings, Elder Ji. The beautiful woman responded faintly. So her surname is Ji. Qin Feiyong mumbled. Elder Wan looked at Qin Feiyong and frowned. Zhang Haoyan, what are you doing? He was obviously blaming Qin Feiyong for making such a big scene. What am I doing? Qin Feiyong put down the teacup and said, Of course I want you to witness a miracle. The people from the Danwang Hall definitely wouldn't be there. Most of the big shots in Yin City were already there. So it was time to uncover the mystery. He opened the lid. A strong medicinal fragrance spread out like a tide. There are more than just elixir patterns. The elixir patterns are still shining. At this moment, everyone's eyes fell on the elixir and their faces were full of shock. Qin Feiyong took out the elixir and said with a faint smile, Don't you want to know the power of this elixir? Now I'll let you see it with your own eyes. After saying that, he threw the elixir into his mouth without hesitation. Everyone stared at Qin Feiyong. The entire room fell into a dead silence. Everyone's heart was beating faster. If the rumors were true, then this person's value in the entire Yin County would be unmatched. More than 10 breaths later, boom! Qin Feiyong's body trembled and a powerful aura broke out of his body. 7-star martial master. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. They were getting more and more nervous. Even his breathing had become hurried. Boom! 3 breaths passed. Another stronger aura rushed out of Qin Feiyang's body and rolled up a gust of wind. At the same time, everyone at the scene clenched their fists and their eyes shone brightly. It was true. The supreme grade Crimson Fire Glaze elixir could really break through 2 small realms. This was too crazy. The thirst in their hearts was completely exposed, without a trace left behind. One had to know. Everyone could only take the Crimson Fire Glaze elixir once in their life. Therefore, increasing 1 small realm and increasing 2 small realms were 2 completely different concepts. It was not an exaggeration to say that it could no longer be measured by money. Lin Han was the first to react and poked the eldest prince's back. The eldest prince suddenly came back to his senses and immediately said, Zhang Haotian, now in the name of the royal family, I officially invite you to be the royal alchemist. No matter what the conditions are, I will agree. Manager Li hurriedly said, in the name of the Precious Treasures Pavilion, I invite you to be the exclusive alchemist of the Precious Treasures Pavilion. I won't restrict your freedom, and I'll be responsible for pill recipes, pill furnaces, medicinal ingredients, and your future cultivation resources. Both forces had offered such tempting conditions. Elder Wan and the beautiful woman were anxious. What a joke. This was a treasure. How could they give it to others? The beautiful woman smiled and said, Haotian, we have an agreement. You can't go back on your words. The agreement didn't say that I can't help others refine elixirs. Besides, the conditions they offered are many times better than the conditions you offered. I have no reason to reject them. Besides, back then I was thick-skinned and said that I would help you refine the Crimson Fire Glaze elixir. You thought that the reward I asked for was too high and were unwilling to refine it for me. Now that you see the power of the supreme grade Crimson Fire Glaze elixir, you want me to help refine it? How can there be such a cheap thing in the world? Let me tell you, my heart is very fragile. Now it has been hurt by you. Qin Feiyang said lightly. Elder Wan and the beautiful woman looked at each other, their hearts bitter. If they had known that the power of the supreme grade Crimson Fire Glaze elixir was so terrifying, how could they refuse? Qin Feiyang's gaze turned and looked at Manager Li mockingly. Manager Li smiled bitterly and said, all right, you don't have to say anymore. I know I was wrong. I'll apologize to you, okay? Qin Feiyang said, Tisk, if an apology is useful, what's the use of the law? This. Manager Li scratched his head and suddenly said with a smile, those 3 stalks of fire ginseng, I'll give it to you. It's free. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said, no, how can I do that? It's right and proper to repay debts. I don't want people to talk behind my back and say that I'm a villain who reneges on debts. No such thing, I'm willing. Chapter 138. Qin Feiyang was quite happy to have picked up 3 blazing ginseng for free, but he didn't show it. He still had a face full of displeasure. This made Steward Li feel very regretful and nervous. Elder Wan walked to Qin Feiyang with a smile on his face and said meaningfully, Haotian, when you left the Danwang Hall, you wanted to use the Martial Imperial Hall to embarrass the Danwang Hall. Not only did we not mind, we even took the initiative to help you. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Senior, you're mistaken. You're helping me because the value I've displayed has moved you. Elder Wan was stunned, and his face became extremely interesting. Yes. That's indeed the case, but at least we helped you. Look at the treasure pavilion and the royal family. Who will stand up for you? They're all laughing at you. This is the difference between the Martial Imperial Hall and them. You're a smart and sensible child. You can definitely see who's the most reliable person. As soon as Elder Wan finished speaking, Steward Li and the first prince looked at him with dissatisfaction. Steward Li said, Old Wan, it's your fault for sowing discord. The first prince echoed, Yes, Senior Wan, we didn't slander the Martial Imperial Hall like that. You're a person of virtue and prestige, so you should be more righteous. Elder Wan was now very embarrassed. He had lost all his face and wanted to find a hole to hide in. Steward Li smiled, Haotian, I'll agree to your condition now. Help me refine 10 blazing colored glass pellets and I'll give you 3 as a reward. That's a 30-70 split. Qin Feiyang didn't say anything. The first prince's eyes flashed and he said with a smile, Brother Jiang, a 30-70 70 split is too insincere. The royal family is willing to split 40-60. How about it? Stewardly was dumbfounded and said angrily, "Stinking brat, are you deliberately undermining me?" The first prince said, "Since Elder Juan has already started, let's rely on our own abilities." Stewardly was so angry that his beard blew and his eyes widened. "The situation is getting worse," the beautiful woman mumbled. She looked at Qin Feiyong and smiled. "Haotian, Elder Juan and I were in the wrong before. How about this? I'll agree to split it 50-50. "What? 50-50? Stewardly, the first prince and Lin Han all stared at the beautiful woman in disbelief. The Martial Imperial Hall was truly willing to pay a heavy price. Zhanbao Pavilion is also willing to split the profits 50-50. The royal family agrees as well. Stewardly and the first prince gritted their teeth and said, they were all smart people. They knew that if they continued to fight like this, there would definitely be no result. Therefore, he might as well agree to the conditions and let Qin Feiyong make the choice. And now, no matter what choice Qin Feiyong made, he would definitely offend someone. This point, he himself was also very clear. However, he wouldn't be so stupid as to make such a stupid choice. He glanced at them and pretended to be in a difficult position, unable to make a decision. In the end, he sighed deeply and said, I can't afford to offend all of you, so I can only decide to help all of you, but the conditions can't be changed. 50-50. This was his real goal. It was impossible for him to help only one faction and abandon the other two. As long as he had all three forces in his hands, he could maximize his benefits. Hearing this, Elder Juan and the others fell silent. Everyone was selfish. They didn't want to share good things with others. But after thinking for a long time, they found a problem. This matter didn't seem to be something they could control. Forcefully take this kid away? Not to mention this kid himself, the other two forces wouldn't let it go. Coercion was even more impossible. This kid was now in high demand. If you coerced him, others would protect him. In the end, you would offend this kid instead. The gains didn't make up for the losses. After thinking about it, they came to a conclusion. This kid looked arrogant on the surface, but he was actually a little fox. Everything had been planned out by him. Qin Feiyong glanced at them and said with a smile, if you can't make a decision now, go back and think about it. No need, I agree. The beautiful woman said. We agree to. Steward Li and the first prince nodded. Elder Juan smiled and said, Haotian, living in the Flying Phoenix house is not a long-term plan. Come back with us. The first prince said, Brother Jiang, why don't you come with me to the palace? I will definitely arrange the quietest and most suitable place for you to refine pills. Elder Juan raised his eyebrows and said angrily, children shouldn't interrupt when adults are talking. The first prince's face twitched. Had he ever seen a 20-year-old child? Your Highness, I have an agreement with the Martial Imperial Hall, so I appreciate your kindness. Qin Feiyong smiled. In fact, this was all an excuse. The real reason was that the system of the palace was the same as the one in the imperial capital. In this system, he was now a little conflicted. There was another factor. The fact that the royal family was colluding with the Lin family made him feel disgusted. The first prince nodded and said, all right then, the doors of the palace are always open for you. I still have some matters to attend to, so I will take my leave. I won't see you out. Qin Feiyong cupped his hands. Lin Han smiled and said, I will also take my leave. Little brother, remember to visit the Lin family when you have time. I will definitely visit. Qin Feiyong smiled. Then I'll be waiting for you at home. Lin Han was secretly delighted. As long as this kid entered the Lin family, he would have a way to bribe him. At that time, the Lin family's status in Swallow City would definitely rise. Qin Feiyong would definitely scoff at this idea if he knew about it. After the first prince and Lin Han left, Steward Li chatted with Qin Feiyong for a while before leaving. Qin Feiyong also gave him the 100 healing pills and 100 bone replenishing pills that he had refined. The beautiful woman smiled and said, let's go back too. Qin Feiyong took out a jade box and handed it to the beautiful woman saying, Elder Ji, I still have some matters to attend to, so I can't go back now. Please pass this to Ling Yunfei. The beautiful woman frowned and said, what is it? Do you need our help? It's nothing. You can go back. Elder sure is enough. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. All right. The beautiful woman nodded and said to Shizheng, no matter what, keep him safe? Yes. Shizheng bowed and replied. The beautiful woman took the jade box and put it in her Qianquan pouch without looking at it. She then turned around and left with Elder Wan. After Shizheng closed the door, he gave Qin Feiyang a thumbs up and praised. You're the smartest person I've ever seen among the young people. You're amazing. Phew. Qin Feiyang let out a long breath and shook his head with a smile. Elder, you are too kind. I am just a little luckier than others. Luckier? Shizheng shook his head and asked. Where are we going next? Which district is the Lin family in? Qin Feiyang asked instead of answering. East District. Shizheng said. Okay, let's take a rest first. After dawn we will go to the East District. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He entered the castle and continued to copy the Huan formula. Danwang Hall. Conference Hall. Elder He and Jia He lowered their heads, their faces uncertain. Soon, a deacon elder ran into the hall in a hurry. Elder He hurriedly looked up at the deacon elder and asked, Did you find out? Yes. The deacon elder nodded and said solemnly, Although I didn't see Zhang Haoyan in the Flying Phoenix Pavilion, Lin Han and the first prince told us that they saw Zhang Haoyan consume a supreme-grade crimson flame-colored glass pellet and break through 2 minor realms in a row. Hearing this, Elder He's body trembled. Deep in his heart, a wave of regret that could not be dispersed emerged like a tide and drowned his heart. Jia Hei's face became extremely ugly. After a while, Elder He said to the deacon elder, You can leave. Oh right, go find Situ Tianyu and ask him to come over. Yes. The deacon elder bowed and retreated. Old man Jia, this is what we've done. If we weren't blinded by greed and forced him to hand over the nether devil flame, he would have. Speaking of this, Elder He couldn't continue. All the words, all the regret, turned into a helpless sigh. This little bastard can't be left alive. Jia He cursed, a cold light flashed in his old eyes. After a while, Fatso came to the conference hall and bowed. Disciple greets the two elders. Elder, he said, I heard that you were the one who spread the news. Fatso's eyes flashed slightly, and he nodded. It was Disciple who spread it. Why are you helping him? Elder, he frowned. Fuck, whether to help Boss Qin or not, it's Fat Lord's freedom. It's none of your business. Fatty cursed in his heart as he bowed. Although he left the Pill Emperor Hall, he is still my friend. Not only that, he even gave me a peak-grade crimson flame-glazed pellet. What? The two of them were shocked. Jia He hurriedly said, Let me see that pill. Fatso said, Disciple has already taken it. Taken it? Jia He was stunned, and immediately flew into a rage. He roared in exasperation, Trash like you deserve to take the top-grade scarlet fireglass pill? That look was extremely contemptuous. Fatso was furious in his heart. This was given to him by Qin Feiyang. Why couldn't he take it? And he even called him trash? That was too much. Damn old dog, just wait for Fat Lord. Sooner or later you will cry. Elder, he furrowed his brows and shouted, Old Jia, watch your behavior. Humph, such a good top-grade scarlet fireglass pill was ruined by a pig. How hateful. Jia He snorted coldly, and his strong insulting words were even more undisguised. Fatso stopped in his ears, but anger was in his heart. At this moment, in his mind a crazy idea sprouted. Can you stop talking? Elder, he glared fiercely at Jia He, turned to Fatso and said, Since you are so familiar with Zhang Haoyan, this elder will give you a task. Go and persuade him to come back. Once this matter is done, this elder will make an exception and promote you to a core disciple. Really? Fatso's eyes widened. Of course it's true. Elder, he nodded. Well, leave it to me. Fatso was wild with joy, patting his chest and making a solemn vow. Then it's settled. You can go. Elder, he waved his hand and said, Disciple will take his leave. Fatso bowed and turned around. His eyes suddenly flashed with a cold light. Fat Lord himself doesn't want to stay in this rubbish place. You want Fat Lord to persuade Boss Qin? Dream on. You two old farts, wait and see. Soon you will know that Fat Lord is not to be trifled with. Chapter 139. At the same time, Martial Imperial Hall, Conference Hall. Ling Yunfei stood in front of Elder Wan and the beautiful woman, looking at the jade box in his hand. He was so excited that his hands were trembling, and his face was full of gratitude. This was the jade box that Qin Feiyong asked the beautiful woman to give him. There was a top-grade red fire glass pill inside. The beautiful woman said, Yunfei, Zhang Haoyan is very vigilant. It's hard for people to really get close to him. It's even harder to become his friend, so you must maintain this relationship. I understand. Ling Yunfei nodded. Yes. The beautiful woman nodded and smiled. It won't be long before you break through to a 6-star martial master, so it's best to use this top-grade red fire glass pill after you break through. At that time, you can enter the 8-star martial master realm in one go. Ling Yunfei said, I also plan to do so. Then you can leave. The beautiful woman waved her hand and smiled. I'll take my leave. Ling Yunfei bowed and left. The beautiful woman retracted her gaze and turned to Elder Wan, puzzled. Elder Wan, why didn't you say a word? Elder Wan frowned. I'm thinking about how to let Zhang Haoyan truly integrate into our martial imperial hall. The beautiful woman said, you'd better get rid of this idea as soon as possible. Elder Wan thought for a moment, nodded and sighed. That's true. This kid's temper is too strong. If he's not careful, it will backfire. It's better to let nature take its course. By the way, don't you think Ling Yunfei is very similar to someone? The beautiful woman was stunned and asked doubtfully, like who? Ling Feng. Elder Wan spat out this name, his old eyes shining. The beautiful woman's pupils shrank. Elder Wan said, Ling Feng is from the Ling family of Black Bear City, and so is Ling Yunfei. They both have sky blue eyes and hair. Could there be some relationship between them? These words seemed to evoke the beautiful woman's memories, and she was silent for a long time. A moment later, she shook her head and said, don't ask Ling Yunfei about this matter. Didn't Ling also grow up in Black Bear City? Find some time to ask her. Elder Wan nodded. After dawn, Qin Feiyong closed the iron-covered book, and a trace of disappointment crept up on his face. He muttered to himself, how have you been in the Lin family these past few months? Whoosh! The next moment, he disappeared without a trace. Seeing Qin Feiyong appear out of thin air, Shi Zheng was no longer surprised. The two of them left the room one after the other. Zhang Haoyan has come out. Brother Zhang, can you help me refine a few top-grade medicinal pills? Big Brother Zhang, I've been waiting for you here all night. In the lobby. Early in the morning, the house was full of guests. In fact, they were all waiting for Qin Feiyong. As soon as they saw Qin Feiyong appear, they immediately stood up and looked at him pleadingly. Qin Feiyong walked downstairs and said to Shi Zheng, help me settle the bill. Yes. Shi Zheng nodded, turned around and walked towards the counter. Qin Feiyong glanced at the crowd, looked at the pairs of eyes full of desire and smiled. Everyone, I also want to help you refine pills, but refining pills is a very complicated process. I can't do anything. I really want to, but I can't. In an instant, everyone's face was filled with disappointment. Qin Feiyong pondered for a while and smiled. How about this? Every month, I will give out 1,000 top-grade medicinal pills for free at the gate of the Martial Imperial Hall, but it will only be limited to healing pills and bone-replenishing pills. Free. Hearing this, everyone was excited again. Qin Feiyong smiled. The first distribution of medicinal pills will be 10 days later in the morning. Remember to line up early and help me spread the news. No problem. We will definitely let everyone in Yen City know about this in the shortest time possible. Everyone roared excitedly. This time, Shi Zheng walked over and whispered, it's done? Then let's go. Qin Feiyong smiled, turned around and walked towards the gate. Brother Jiang, take care. The crowd automatically separated, and one after another, they all cupped their hands to send him off. After Qin Feiyong left, the Flying Phoenix Pavilion was in an uproar. I didn't expect him to be so nice. I thought he would look down on us. Yeah, I also thought he would put on airs and look down on us. His character really isn't just for show. No matter what happens in the future, we have to support him. That's right, such a kind-hearted young man. We won't let anyone bully him. Everyone was in high spirits as they discussed. Suddenly someone said, 1,000 top-grade medicinal pills, isn't that too little? There are millions of people in Yen City. How are we going to divide it? As soon as these words came out, it immediately caused public outrage. What are you talking about? He doesn't cultivate? Refining pills for you every day? Don't be dissatisfied. Look at the Danwang Hall. There are more than 1,000 alchemists. Have they ever given out a medicinal pill for free? What's more, he's refining supreme-grade medicinal pills. How can ordinary medicinal pills compare to them? If you say something like that again, don't blame us for being rude. On the street, anyone who met Qin Feiyong would go up and greet him. Qin Feiyong didn't show the slightest bit of impatience. He greeted him with a smile, appearing very amiable and approachable. In the eyes of those big shots, he was an arrogant young man. But in the eyes of these ordinary people, he was a sensible and polite child. Shi Zheng frowned along the way. Seeing that they were about to enter the East District, he could not help but ask, Zhang Haotian, why do I feel that you're acting a little strange today? Am I? Qin Feiyong asked. Shi Zheng nodded and said, yes, let's not talk about the free medicinal pills first. Just your attitude towards everyone is different from before. Do you know me well? Do you know what kind of person I am? Qin Feiyong asked back. Shi Zheng shook his head. To be honest, he did not know him at all. This boy was like a veil covering him. He did not know when he was showing his true side. That's right. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly and did not explain further, because some things could only be kept in the heart. The Lin family. As the most powerful family in Yen City, the Lin family's mansion was naturally extraordinary. It covered an area of several miles. There was a garden, a pavilion, a small stream, everything one could think of. On both sides of the gate, there were 2 stone sculptures. They were 2 tigers that were 3 to 4 meters tall and looked majestic. Beside the stone statue stood 4 guards. Their sharp gazes were incomparably sharp. But when they saw Qin Feiyong and Shi Zheng walking over, their eyes instantly changed, showing flattery and flattery. Greetings, young Master Jiang. The 4 guards went up and bowed. Qin Feiyong said faintly, please inform the Lin family head that Zhang Haotian is here to visit. He could be good to anyone except for the Lin family. The family head said that as long as young master comes, there is no need to inform. Young Master Jiang, Elder Shi, please come in. One of the guards led Qin Feiyong and the other into the main gate and went straight to the guest hall that the Lin clan used to receive distinguished guests. Please take a seat. I will ask the family head to come in. The guard said flatteringly and walked out of the reception hall. He told the 2 maids outside the door, treat young Master Jiang well. Don't let anything happen to him. Understand? The 2 maids nodded and hurried to serve tea. In the Lin family's conference hall, Lin Han sat on a chair and looked down at an old man in black. He shouted, it's been half a year and you still haven't found Qin Feiyong. What the hell are you doing? The old man in black trembled and hurriedly said, family head, we can't do anything. He seems to have disappeared from the world. No matter how hard we search, we can't find his whereabouts. Lin Han said angrily, I don't care if he disappeared from the world or not. I only want results. Understand? The old man in black nodded and said, yes, I understand. I will immediately tell them to hurry up. Lin Han said, give them another half a year. If they still can't find him, bring their heads back to me. Yes. The old man in black bowed and replied. However, the 2 of them didn't know that the person they were trying to find had not only entered the Lin family's residence, but was also sitting openly in the reception hall. Family head, at this moment, the guard hurriedly ran into the hall. The old man in black frowned and shouted, can't you see that I am discussing something with the family head? Get out. The guard said anxiously, Steward Lin, Zhang Haotian is here. What? Steward Lin was shocked. Why was he here so soon? Lin Han also stood up, his eyes shining. He waved his hand and said, you can leave first. After the guard left, Steward Lin looked up at Lin Han and asked, family head, have you thought of a way to bribe him? Lin Han said, what do men want in life? It's nothing more than wealth, power, and beauty. Steward Lin thought for a moment and said, this kid shouldn't be lacking in wealth now. As for power, we can't give him that either. So all that's left is beauty. I understand. Family head, I will arrange it right away. Lin Han shook his head and said, not only beauty but also wealth. Prepare 5 million gold coins and bring that jar of wine that I have treasured for many years. Steward Lin's expression changed and he hurriedly said, family head, that jar of wine was bestowed by the king of Yen. Even you can't bear to drink it. Lin Han waved his hand and said, you can't catch the wolf without risking the child. Go and arrange it quickly. Yes. Steward Lin responded helplessly and turned to go and arrange it. I don't believe that with my methods, I can't bribe a greenhorn who is still wet behind the ears. Lin Han sneered and strode out of the meeting hall. He came to the reception hall and cupped his hands with a smile. Little brother, we are honored by your presence. I hope you won't blame us for not welcoming you properly. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed and he stood up with a smile. You're too kind, family head Lin. Lin Han nodded at Elder Shi, then looked at Qin Feiyong and said, little brother, since you've come, then no matter what, you should stay in the Lin clan for a few days. Let me Lin be a good host. This? Qin Feiyong hesitated. Lin Han said, little brother, if you refuse, you'll be looking down on me and the Lin family. Qin Feiyong smiled helplessly and nodded. All right, since family head Lin has invited me so kindly, it would be impolite of me to refuse. Haha. Lin Han was secretly delighted and laughed. Little brother, you're indeed a straightforward person. Come take a seat. Shi Zheng raised his eyebrows subtly. Chapter 140. Qin Feiyong had only one purpose for this trip, which was to understand Lin Yi's current living situation. But he couldn't show concern for Lin Yi in front of Lin Han, because this would make Lin Han suspicious. Lin Han might even use Lin Yi to get close to him and bribe him. So, staying in the Lin family for the time being was the best choice. After chatting in the living room for a while, Lin Han proposed to take Qin Feiyong out for a stroll. Qin Feiyong did not refuse. The layout of the Lin family was also quite particular. There were groups of rockery and hundreds of flowers in full bloom. A small stream meandered through the entire Lin mansion. The water was so clear that one could see the bottom. Schools of colorful fish swam happily in the water. On both sides of the stream, small green trees swayed in the wind like young girls, showing their youthful vitality. But all of this, Qin Feiyong didn't care about it. He was thinking about how to see Lin Yi without being suspected. Unknowingly, it was noon. Butler Lin came over and bowed. Family master. The wine and dishes are ready. Family master Lin nodded and looked at Qin Feiyong with a smile. Little brother, please. Please. Qin Feiyong said. The dishes were very sumptuous, and they looked, smelled, and tasted good. At the door, in addition to a few maids, there was a man and a woman. The man wore a purple robe and was about 20 years old. His facial features were somewhat similar to Lin Han's. The woman was only 15 or 16 years old. She wore a white dress that was spotless. Her black hair was soft and beautiful. Her skin was creamy, and her eyebrows were picturesque. She was like a woman in a painting. She was stunning. However, if one looked closely, one would find that there was a hint of melancholy hidden in her clear eyes. Qin Feiyong and Lin Han walked side by side from the path in front. When Qin Feiyong looked up and saw the girl in white, there was a hint of joy in his eyes. That's right. That girl was Lin Yi. It was really a case of wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it by chance. He didn't expect Lin Yi to come to this dinner. Father. Seeing Qin Feiyong's group, the purple-clad young man immediately went up to them. Godfather. Lin Yi also walked over and bowed. Lin Han nodded and turned to look at Qin Feiyong. He smiled and said, Little brother, let me introduce you. This is my son Lin Hao. This is my adopted daughter Lin Yi. Hao Er, the one standing in front of you is the young genius that shook Swallow City, Zhang Haotian. Lin Hao cupped his fists and said, Brother Zhang, I've heard a lot about you. Please take care of me in the future. Greetings, young Master Zhang. At the same time, Lin Yi also saluted Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong glanced at Lin Yi and smiled. Nice to meet you too. Let's go in and chat while drinking. Lin Han greeted them and led them to the dining room. It's been hard on you. Qin Feiyong looked at Lin Yi's back and muttered to himself. Although Lin Yi's living conditions and clothes were better than before, Qin Feiyong couldn't see a sincere smile on her face. She was forcing a smile. It was obvious that she was not happy here. Walking into the dining room, Lin Han personally helped Qin Feiyong move the chair and smiled. "Little brother, please sit down." "Thank you, Family Master Lin." Qin Feiyong thanked him and sat on the chair. He looked at the dishes on the table without any appetite. Although he didn't see it with his own eyes, he could imagine how Lin Yi spent the past few months. He was a little sad. He was sad for Lin Chong, Lin Yi, and himself. Lin Han sat next to Qin Feiyong, and Shizheng sat on the other side of Qin Feiyong. As for Lin Hao and Lin Yi, they sat on the right side of Lin Han. Lin Han smiled and said, "Steward, give me the wine." Steward Lin immediately sent a pot of wine and smiled, "Family Master, let me pour the wine." "No need. I want to entertain the little brother personally." Lin Han grabbed the wine pot and poured wine for Qin Feiyong while smiling. "This pot of wine was bestowed by King Yan in the past. I have kept it for many years and have never been willing to drink it. Today, I will use it to entertain the little brother." Wine. It was indeed mellow. People couldn't help but swallow their saliva. But this would only make Qin Feiyong more irritated. Lin Han pushed the wine cup in front of Qin Feiyong and smiled. "Little brother, would you like to try it?" Qin Feiyong held the wine cup and frowned imperceptibly. King Yan's bestowed wine that even he was reluctant to drink, but now it was used to entertain him. It seemed that Lin Han had begun to bribe him. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, "Family Master Lin, I'm sorry. I really don't know how to drink. I will let Elder Shi do it for me." After that, he handed the wine cup to Shizheng. Shizheng didn't stand on ceremony and drank it in one gulp. He nodded and said, "Yes, this is indeed the imperial wine of the palace." Seeing this, Lin Han's eyes flashed with a hint of displeasure, and he smiled. "Which man in the world doesn't know how to drink? Little brother, don't stand on ceremony." As he spoke, he was about to pour another cup of wine for Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong reached out to hold the wine cup and smiled bitterly. "Family Master Lin, I really don't know how to drink. Otherwise, I wouldn't have refused the first prince last night." Lin Han was stunned. It seemed that this was indeed the case. When he went to the Flying Phoenix restaurant last night and saw this young man, the first thing the first prince said was to invite him to drink. At that time, this young man directly refused. I miscalculated." Lin Han was a little angry. If taking out the treasure that he had kept for many years could make the other party happy, then it was worth it. But now, after spending so much effort and even pouring wine for him personally, their relationship didn't improve at all. The gains didn't make up for the losses. "Steward, take the wine away," Lin Han ordered. Since he didn't want to drink, then there was no need to waste it. Shizheng hurriedly said, "Don't. If Zhang Haoyan doesn't want to drink, I'll drink. Don't tell me that Family Master Lin is so stingy that you can't bear to part with it?" Lin Han smiled and said, "Of course not. Go accompany Elder Shi and drink a few more cups." "Okay." Lin Hao nodded and got up to take the wine pot from Steward Lin. He sat next to Shizheng and poured wine for him. At the same time, Lin Han also gave Steward Lin a look. Steward Lin understood and took out a Qiankuan bag. Lin Han placed the Qiankuan bag in front of Qin Feiyong and said with a smile, "Little brother, although the Lin family is rich, I really don't have anything to give you. I hope you don't mind." Qin Feiyong took the Qiankuan bag and a flash of light flashed across his eyes. Lin Han smiled and said, "Little brother, this is a small gift from me. I hope you can accept it." "This is not a good idea. I don't deserve it." Qin Feiyong was a little embarrassed. Lin Han waved his hand and said, "It's okay. Just take it as a gift." "A gift of a few million yuan. How generous." Qin Feiyong sneered. Since Lin Han insisted on the stronghold, wouldn't it be too embarrassing if he didn't accept it? Besides, he really couldn't find a reason to refuse something that was delivered to his doorstep. "Thank you, Patriarch Lin." Qin Feiyong put the Qiankuan bag into his pocket. He would be an idiot if he didn't take advantage of it. Lin Han also smiled. The first step was finally successful. Ahem. He coughed dryly and gave Butler Lin a look. Steward Lin nodded and clapped his hands. 3 beautiful women walked in leisurely and stood beside Butler Lin. The 3 of them were only 16 years old. They had exquisite figures and looked quite sweet. Qin Feiyong turned around and looked at the three women with a strange expression. What era was this? How old-fashioned? Lin Han didn't notice at all. He smiled and said, "Little brother, if you like, pick any one of them. Of course you can take all three." Qin Feiyong's face twitched. He turned to look at Lin Han and said, "Patriarch Lin, I'm still underage. Is it okay for you to do this? Be careful that others don't scold you behind your back. You're a bad influence on children." Underage? Lin Han was stunned. It wasn't until this moment that he suddenly realized. The kid in front of him was not even 16 years old. Well, Lin Han was embarrassed. If news of him seducing an underage boy spread, wouldn't the world laugh their heads off? Steward Lin smiled and said, "Young Master Jiang, 15 years old is not young. Look at the disciples of the noble families. Aren't they only 14 or 15 years old? Don't they still run around looking for women every day?" Yes. Lin Han nodded and looked at Steward Lin with admiration. Qin Feiyong nodded and said, "Indeed, but I'm a conservative person. I don't like this kind of thing. It's better not to ruin them. After all, they don't have it easy." Lin Han was at his wits' end. He looked at Steward Lin. Steward Lin also had a helpless expression on his face. Qin Feiyong stood up and smiled. "I suddenly remembered something, so I have to leave now. I'll visit you another day when I'm free." "Ah, you're leaving already. Is it because I didn't treat you well enough that you're angry?" "If that's the case, I apologize to you," Lin Han hurriedly said. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, "You're being too serious. Patriarch Lin, you're full of enthusiasm and even gave me a big gift. I'm really grateful, but I really have some urgent matters to attend to." Lin Han was burning with anxiety. He said, "Young master." Steward Lin smiled and said, "Patriarch, since young Master Jiang has something to attend to, let's not force him to stay. After all, there are still many opportunities for us to meet in the future." Lin Han frowned and nodded. "All right then. Young master, I'll see you out." "No need. I know the way out." After Qin Feiyong said that, he called Shizheng and strode out. After the two left, Lin Han turned his head to look at Steward Lin and frowned. "Why did you interrupt me just now?" Steward Lin said, "Patriarch, can't you see that this kid is just toying with us?" "Toying with us?" Lin Han raised his eyebrows. Steward Lin said, "I'm afraid that he already knew that we were bribing him as soon as we sat on the table. Patriarch, this kid's mind is not simple. Don't underestimate him." Lin Han said angrily, "According to what you said, wouldn't the 5 million gold coins be wasted? What else can I do? We can't ask for it back now, right?" Steward Lin smiled bitterly. "Damn it." Lin Han slammed his palm on the dining table, revealing a ferocious look. After all this time, this little bastard was actually toying with him. It's unforgivable. Lin Yi got up and said, "Foster father, if there's nothing else, Yi will go back to the house first." Lin Han nodded and said, "Oh right, you'll be 16 in 5 months. You should prepare to get married to the first prince as soon as possible. When you're free, you should go out with the first prince more often to cultivate your feelings." "Yes." Lin Yi's tender body trembled. She nodded in response, turned around and left. The disappointment in her eyes was even stronger. Chapter 141. After leaving the Lin family, Shizheng frowned and wondered, "Zhang Haoyan, I really don't understand. Why did you come to the Lin family?" Qin Feiyong said, "I came to collect money." "Collect money?" Shizheng was slightly taken aback. "Did the previous Cosmos pouch contain gold coins?" He asked, "How do you know that he will give you money?" Qin Feiyong said, "Otherwise, why would I come to the Lin family? I'm not full." Shizheng said, "How many gold coins did he give you?" Qin Feiyong smiled and said, "I don't know. It should be a few million." Not only did he learn about Lin Yi's recent situation, but he also gained such a large amount of wealth. This trip was not in vain. But now, Lin Han was probably going crazy with anger. A few million. Shizheng's eyes widened in disbelief. Is this Lin Han crazy? How can he be so generous? Next, Qin Feiyong went to the treasure pavilion again and bought 10,000 sets of medicinal materials for healing pill and 10,000 sets of medicinal materials for bone replenishing pill from Manager Li. Manager Li also gave the 10 sets of medicinal materials for Scarlet Fire-colored glass pill to Qin Feiyang. They agreed that Manager Li would go to the Martial Emperor Hall to pick it up 10 days later. Everything was settled. Qin Feiyang returned to the Martial Emperor Hall with Shi Zheng. The disciples of the Martial Emperor Hall went crazy. They stopped Qin Feiyang halfway and insisted that he help to refine medicinal pills. Finally, it was Elder Wan who came forward to control the situation. After Elder Wan gave the prepared 6 sets of medicinal materials for Scarlet Fire-colored glass pill to Qin Feiyang, he asked Shi Zheng to take Qin Feiyang to his residence. Dozens of attics were located side by side in a corner of the Danwang Hall. Behind the attics there was a low mountain about 10 meters high, forming a natural barrier to block the cool wind blowing slowly. In front there was a lake about 1,000 feet long. The sun spread and the blue waves rippled. The green willow trees on the shore swayed in the wind, showing a kind of tranquility. A 2-meter-wide wooden bridge stretched across the lake, connecting the two sides. When Qin Feiyang arrived here, he immediately fell in love with this place. Shi Zheng smiled and said, "This place is called Calm Lake. Only very important guests can stay here." "Doesn't that mean that I'm important?" Qin Feiyang asked. "What do you think?" Shi Zheng asked. "Isn't this nonsense? Since I'm already here, how can I not be important?" Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. "I like the name Tranquil Lake." The two walked to the opposite side. Qin Feiyang asked. Shi Zheng shook his head and said, "Not at the moment, but there might be in the future. Elder Wan has instructed that you stay in the first pavilion on the right. I will also stay behind to continue protecting you." Qin Feiyang said, "There's no need for that. You can go and do your thing. After all, in the Yan County, no one dares to break into the Martial Imperial Palace and harm me." Shi Zheng said, "It's better to be safe than sorry. If you're worried that I'll hinder you, then I'll stay next door. If you need anything, just call me." "All right." Qin Feiyang nodded. With Shi Zheng by his side, his safety was indeed guaranteed, but it was still somewhat inconvenient. Jiang Haotian. Suddenly, a furious roar could be heard coming from behind. Qin Feiyang's expression froze and said to Shi Zheng, "Just say that you didn't see me." Before he finished, he used the smoke-gathering steps and in a few breaths, he ran to the front of the attic, pushed the door open and locked it. Then he looked outside through the crack in the door. Feng Ling-er, who was wearing a tight suit and a white mask, quickly ran in front of Elder Shi and asked, "Elder, where's Jiang Haotian?" Elder Shi pursed his lips towards the attic where Qin Feiyang was. Feng Ling-er immediately ran towards the attic. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang was quite annoyed. This Shi Zheng was too unreliable. Shua. He entered the castle without hesitation. He actually locked the door. Feng Ling-er came to the door and pushed it hard. She was immediately furious and kicked it fiercely. With a bang, the door was kicked open by her. "Jiang Haotian, come out. You actually didn't give me the top-grade Scarlet Fire glass pill. That's too much. At least I helped you before." Feng Ling-er was like a furious tigress, looking for Qin Feiyang all over the room, but she couldn't find him. "Bastard, he must be hiding in that place. Don't think that you'll be fine if you hide. If you don't come out, I'll reveal your true." Before Feng Ling-er finished, Qin Feiyang appeared out of thin air and said in distress, "What do you want?" Feng Ling-er joked, "Come out, I thought you were going to hide for a lifetime. Quickly give me a top-grade Scarlet Fire glass pill." Qin Feiyang said angrily, "I have a total of 3, Fatso 1, Me 1 and Ling Yunfei 1. Do you want me to steal it for you now?" Feng Ling-er crossed her arms in front of her chest and said playfully, "Okay, as long as you can steal it." A row of black lines appeared on Qin Feiyang's forehead. He glanced at a certain part of Feng Ling-er and said lightly, "I know you're very big there, don't show off deliberately." Feng Ling-er was stunned. When she understood, she immediately gritted her teeth and her face turned red with anger. Cough cough. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly, his face became serious and asked, "Is there any news about your grandfather?" "Grandpa." At the mention of Feng Chang, Feng Ling-er's delicate body trembled, and her eyes were full of worry. But soon the worry was covered up, and she stared at Qin Feiyang and said, "Don't try to change the topic." Alas! Qin Feiyang sighed secretly. She was obviously in pain, but she pretended not to care. He didn't know if he should say that she was strong or stupid. He grabbed Feng Ling'er's hand and entered the castle. Feng Ling'er frowned. "Why did you bring me here?" Qin Feiyang said with a smile. "Don't you want the top-grade scarlet fireglass pill? I'll refine one for you right now." "Oh." Feng Ling'er nodded, still a little touched in her heart. But suddenly, she raised her eyebrows and said playfully, "Do you like holding my hand so much?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Only then did he realize that he had forgotten to let go. Qin Feiyang smiled awkwardly, hurriedly let go of his hand, and walked towards the pill furnace. Feng Ling'er teased, "I didn't know that you have such a perverted courage in your stomach. No wonder you have such a good relationship with the wolf. You are all the same pervert." Qin Feiyang almost tripped and fell to the ground. "Little thing? Why was this name so awkward? Don't disturb me when I'm refining pills," he said without looking back, took out the medicinal materials, concentrated, and began to refine pills. Wolf King lay on the ground weakly, glanced at Qin Feiyang, and then at Feng Ling'er and sighed. "Lying here and getting shot, Wolf King is really unlucky. When can he go out and behave atrociously?" Qin Feiyang said, "Don't worry, I'm already making arrangements. It won't be long before you can walk around Yen City openly." "Really?" Wolf King was surprised. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. After all, changing his name and appearance was not a long-term plan. So, he made a plan very seriously. As long as the plan succeeded, not only Wolf King, but he also didn't have to continue hiding. With the previous 3 alchemy experiences, refining the scarlet fireglass pill this time was much smoother. In less than 200 breaths, the pill was out of the furnace. He grabbed it in his hand, turned around and handed it to Feng Ling'er, and said with a smile, "Take it." Feng Ling'er took the pill and looked at it over and over. Finally, she couldn't help but exclaim, "This pill pattern is really beautiful. If you take it to the auction, it will definitely be sold at an amazing price. Little thing, thank you. In the future, sister will protect you in the Martial King Hall." "Sister?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Why did it feel more and more awkward? Qin Feiyang said, "If you take it to the auction, then give it back to me. I'm just saying. When I break through to the 3-star Martial Grandmaster, I will take it and step into the 5-star Martial Grandmaster in one fell swoop. I will work hard to become stronger and save Grandpa in person." Feng Ling'er clenched her jade-like hands, and a determined light burst out from her eyes. Qin Feiyang frowned. It was not that he didn't believe in Feng Ling'er. With Feng Ling'er's talent, surpassing Xuan was a matter of time. But it needed time. And Xuan had been refining the blood spirit pill. His cultivation speed would definitely be faster than theirs. He was afraid that before Feng Ling'er could surpass him, he would have stepped into the 9-star combat emperor first. At that time, not to mention them, even the county of Yen would be in chaos. This one was a ticking time bomb. If they didn't remove him, no one would be at ease. After sending Feng Ling'er out, Qin Feiyang calmed down and continued to refine the red fireglaze pill. 10 sets of herbs in the treasure pavilion. 6 sets of herbs in the Martial King Hall. He could get 8 pills in half. After deducting the one he gave to Feng Ling'er, there were still 7 pills left. The image crystal stone had been found. Late at night, it was as silent as ashes. Danwang Hall herb field. The herbs were overflowing with light, looking particularly attractive under the moonlight. Fatso stood at the edge of the herb field, glancing at the herbs. His squinted eyes were shining, and he was almost drooling. There was a small wooden building behind him. Candlelight flickered on the 2nd floor of the building. Fatso looked back at the 2nd floor and frowned slightly. "It's easy to rob the herb field, but how can I get away? Go to Boss Qin? That will definitely get him into trouble. Moreover, with Fat Lord's current speed, it will take him half a day to reach the Martial Imperial Hall. I'm afraid that he will be caught by those 2 old dogs before he even reaches the Martial Imperial Hall. Should I leave Yen City and hide somewhere outside? No, Yen City is not Black Bear City. The fierce beasts in the mountains are too strong. Hiding in the mountains is suicide. What should I do?" Fatso racked his brains, but he couldn't make up his mind. "I have an idea." Suddenly, An idea flashed through his mind and he came up with a plan. Lord Fatty is simply too smart. When the time comes, those old things will definitely die of anger. He laughed sinisterly and shouted at the second floor of the building, Elder Jing, can you come out for a moment? What? A loud shout came from the second floor. Fatso said, I have a way to persuade Zhang Haotian to change his mind. Creak. The window on the second floor opened. A middle-aged man stood in front of the window and asked, Really? Yes,